I didn't sell out, son. I bought in. Keep that in mind.
Welcome to the Independent Characters, episode 257. This is Carl.
And this is Chelle.
Hey, look who's joining me. Thank you so much. We got Josh out. He's been traveling a bit and doing some contract work as a photographer, which is good. I'm glad he's getting work. And so you stepped into his shoes for the moment. And this episode, we're going to be talking about an event I just attended called the Maelstrom Mixer. I've talked a little bit about it last year, but it was much more engaging this year. I thought it was a ton of fun.
Last year wasn't the first year, was it?
It was the first year for me, but not for the event.
Got it.
Later, we'll talk to Brett. I have Brett, who's one of the main organizers of the event, on, and we'll interview him in depth about the event, like what it took to kind of get it going and what some lessons learned were from previous years and this year and that kind of thing. So it was a pretty impressive event. One of the things that, well, I'll get into that, but before I get into that, first, this show is sponsored by two of our fantastic patrons, and that is Maxfield Suppler, and I think Max is brand new. Like, he just came up on the random draw, and Christopher Poland. So if you want to be cool like Maxfield and Christopher, you can join our Patreon and help us out and help support us and help keep good content coming and that kind of thing. So thank you so much for your support, guys. We will appreciate it. We're part of the Goonhammer Media Network, so check us out at media.goonhammer.com for more shows and information. And then again, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the Maelstrom Mixer here. And so before we get into that, let's talk about hobby progress.
Uh-oh.
Elite Choice. I'm actually out of order. We got to talk about Elite Choice. So there you have a choice. You want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I picked, it's a Tom Garrett.
Yep.
And his, it's a terrain piece.
It's a couple terrain pieces.
Yeah. A chunk of terrain that he presented on the page in video format.
Yeah.
And he puts a little story goes along with it, but it's just stunning. It's so unique from any terrain I've ever seen. I mean, it's a wall. It's a wall.
It's a wall. It's a set of ruins.
It's a set of ruins. It's a broken up building, but just the color choices that he used and the and the patterning and the lighting on it.
It kind of has like almost like it. This is doing a disservice to say rainbow, but it has multiple colors used in it.
And they're almost pastel-y colors, which is not something I associate with.
And done to kind of just like in different spots. So it's not like you have like, you know what it reminded me of a little bit was the edging that Caleb did on my Titan here that has like
that iridescent sort of look. Yeah.
It kind of looks like that.
I see that.
Yeah. So I thought it was
the same types of tones to it. Yeah.
It was super cool.
It is really neat. And like I said, he does it in video format. He's done I've seen him on the page before.
Yeah.
He's been around for, I don't know, at least a year or so. Yeah. And other pieces he's done have caught my eye, but this was it was really unique.
It was very cool. I chose, it goes by Ned F. Teef on our Discord. But he painted up this really interesting model. It's clearly an Age of Sigmar model. I wasn't even sure what it is, but I asked, and he said it's a Brood Terror with the Talia Verde Manticore lion head. And he said it's mostly because he used this head for Captain Raffi, who's another person on our Discord. He said he used this because he lost a bet. Now, I don't know the details of the bet. What I really liked about this model, other than it's painted very well, is he also used some gauze to like cover the head. Yeah. And I'm sure he used glue to like firm up the gauze and such. And then he has like symbols painted on it. It looks old and weathered. So it almost looks like a piece of sackcloth or something that is used to kind of cover the head and like almost provide like a kind of blinding element to the creature. So it's very cool combination of not only models to kit bash together this thing, but then use this gauze for like really interesting effect. Like I could see it being used on like horses and other things too to
add the texture.
Yeah. And then it's just a fantastic combination of colors as well. So
Ned is one of the most prolific, active members of our Discord group. Like he's in all the groups doing all the things.
Everybody that joins gets a welcome from Ned about the word of Lorgar. So. He's a great contributing member, and this is just a fantastic piece.
Yeah, it's really unique.
So I'm super stoked about that. Okay. So let's just roll right into hobby progress. And you said, because you haven't done anything
I have not touched anything hobby-wise since, I'm going to say November or December.
Wow. Really?
I haven't touched anything, babe.
Why do you think that is? Because you were like heavily into doing edging and painting, and I've got stuff there that is ready to go for you. Like I've done the airbrushing on it. Why do you think you haven't done anything?
I mean, it's pretty typical of everything I do. I get really, really, really into it, and then like my vitamins. I have not taken my vitamins since we returned from Adepticon.
That's true.
If it goes off my radar, it doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
And so I fell off. Like I had to wait for you to do something for me, and then other things came up, and we were doing this and that, and so it's no longer in my
If we were
organizational system of doing.
If we were playing more, do you think you would be
probably
okay? Because we got to play more.
Yeah. I also don't think I've played since December.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's just before Adepticon. You played a month or two before Adepticon.
Yeah. It's December.
No, that's January.
A month or two before.
All right. Well, we need to play more.
I know. We've been playing lots of other stuff.
We have been playing lots of board
other
games.
Stuff.
Yes. Okay. So you've done nothing hobby-wise. I haven't done a lot hobby-wise, but what I have been doing is printing up a lot of terrain lately for Jody is going to run for us a Mordheim campaign, which I think campaign's a stretch. Like it's going to be over a weekend, maybe even just one day, but at least one day, maybe 2 days of Mordheim. And I've always been very interested in Mordheim, which is kind of like I don't know how much you know about it, but it's basically Necromunda's kind of the sci-fi skirmish game.
Right.
For 40K, Mordheim is like the fantasy one.
Okay.
It takes place in the city that's been struck by a comet. And
so this is the one you get to play the rat things in.
Yes, that I painted up.
Skaven?
Yep. And so we're trying to print up a bunch of terrain for it. It requires like super dense terrain. And so we're printing that up, and I want to mount them on like 2x2 boards so that you can rotate the boards around and create. It's played on a 4x4 table. Mm-hmm. So then if I have 2x2 boards, you can just rotate them and create a whole different environment every time you rotate them. So I got to figure out how to do all that. But I have one printer. These are PLA printers, not resin printers, and that I've always used for terrain. And so I started doing that, and I asked Aaron if he would use his. He has the same kind, and Aaron can't run it at his house for reasons. So I...
So instead, you brought him here.
I brought his printer
24
here.
hours, keeping me up at night.
Is that what they're doing?
Disrupting everything we do.
Is that what they're doing? No. You don't even hear it. You can't even hear it outside the room.
You can't even hear it.
And in fact, even when it's running inside the room, you kind of get used to it. Like it just, you tune it out. So anyway. Yeah, so I'm running 2 Prusa printers that are running probably for the next 2 weeks, 24 hours a day. Yep. Just printing stuff. In fact, that one just finished. I'm going to have to go restart it.
But they're out of the way, and they're not up.
Yeah, they're totally out of the way. Actually, it's a great use of the bench we have in this room. So I've got like a little printer farm going.
I said we could fit 2 more on the bench.
We could, but I don't
want
to
have 4 going.
I don't want to buy 2. Aaron was like, "Oh, do you want to buy mine?" And I'm like, "Not at the price you're going to ask." I'm like, "For that price, I could get a brand new one that prints 30% faster." Yeah. So anyway, doing a lot of printing of this cool ruins terrain that is all coming together now. So that's going to be running for the next 2 weeks or so. And then the other thing I just want to take a moment is to thank our Hobby Progress Challenge sponsors.
Oh yeah, we got some cool stuff.
Because I've reached out to a bunch of folks and I've gotten great responses from some and no responses from others.
Yeah.
But first off, Herrick Games donated a ton of stuff for us to give away. These are model kits, stuff from Legions Imperialis, Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Warhammer 40K.
Yeah.
I think there's even Necromunda stuff in there. I'm not sure. Artist Opus sent us 2 of their dry brush sets with the
those are
wooden
cool
boxes.
too.
Yeah,
Nice.
mine's destroyed. I need a new one. So I was like, I'm kind of jealous.
Well, if you'd done progress during the
Listen,
anyway,
you cannot talk about
I think I have more points than you do, though. Technically,
in the Hobby Parks Challenge?
Yeah.
Oh, probably. Probably. I really fell off the bandwagon on that thing. But then whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. And then do I get credit for helping paint your things?
ooh, a good question.
Yeah. So see, no, I don't. I can't win anyway.
Oh, that's right. Forgot.
So what does that matter? We got KR Multicase to donate a KR Backpack 2, which we don't actually have on site here because the winner will be able to tell KR, here's my army.
Yeah.
And they
do the
will,
foam for him.
Yeah, they will do the foam for him and then
Custom
ship it to him, which
So cool.
Daryl, who runs KR, is the nicest of guys. Like he was a sponsor early on when we did the show. He hasn't been a sponsor for years, not because he didn't choose to,
Because
but
you're not really doing sponsors.
yeah,
that
not
way
really
anymore.
doing sponsors like that. And when we came back, like I didn't reach out to him or anything. In fact, I reached out to him out of the blue and asked if he would be willing to support this. And he was like, "Oh, you're still going?" like he was kind of surprised. And so we exchanged a few emails back and forth. But he is, as far as like people that work the hobby, like he's the kind of guy you want to do business with.
Yeah.
He's very, very supportive of the hobby and of events like this. And so is the Army Painter.
The Army Painter.
Who has sent us a ton of stuff to give away, like complete sets, some of the Blanche sets. So speed paint set, a set of their new high-end paints.
Yeah.
Like the Army Painter is just a fantastic group of people that I'm super happy. Most of them are my friends, and they have been nothing but supportive. And I'm actually thinking of reaching out to them and asking them to be even a little more supportive, not of this event, but of our Patreon. So like allowing us to maybe monthly do some kind of giveaways or stuff. We'll see. I mean, I think I'm always hesitant to ask for stuff.
Yep.
But like my dad says, if you don't ask, you don't know. So, Army Painter, I really appreciate all the folks over there that joined in. And then, I was going to bug Table War about this. Table War is if you don't know, is a very small company, basically run by Todd and Doug. And let's face it, mostly Todd. And Doug's the artist version of it. And with the current tariff situation, I think they're about to be
their
hit.
Products come from
From China, and I think they're about to be hit really hard. And so I said they'll see if they can help out, but I didn't want to ask at this point. So maybe next year, or maybe they got some old product they're not moving that they want to get rid of. Who knows? But talk about guys who've been supportive. When we did the fire thing for
the Palisades.
Paradise.
Paradise, not Palisades.
I mean, they donated an entire pallet
Yeah.
of mats and
Cases.
It filled our living room.
Yeah,
Remember? It was a lot of stuff. So anyway, the thing I always love about the community is it's such a generous community in general. But we have quite a few prizes to give away. The Hobby Progress Challenge is coming up to its end.
Yeah, end of June.
End of June is the final.
So we get 2 months left. We get a month and a half left.
Yeah. You can still get an entry, even if you haven't done one.
Anything the whole 12 months.
If you do one thing,
You get an entry.
next month,
Yeah.
you can get an entry, and then you're entered into potential drawing. So, do it. Do it. Why wouldn't you? I'm gonna. Okay. So anyway, enough of that banter. let's talk about games played, because going into Maelstrom Mixer is 2 games a day. You have 3-hour rounds, much like we did for the Flex.
The Flex, yeah.
Right.
It was only 2 days, right?
Yeah, just 2 days.
Friday, Saturday? Or Saturday, Sunday?
Saturdays. Friday night, they did like some special other events that you could do.
Yeah.
I'll talk with Brett about that later. It was the Aeronautica Imperialis thing they ended up not needing my Thunderhawk for.
Oh, okay.
But I want to talk about kind of how it went. So when you come in Saturday, you set your stuff to the side, whatever. They do a big briefing. And by this point, you've been reminded to read like the material that they have provided multiple times. Like you've received email after email saying, read this material. Is very different from like what we did at the Flex, where.
So this is a narrative based.
Yeah.
Not a tournament, just an event, right?
It's absolutely not a tournament.
Not a tournament.
In fact, everywhere on their page, you will never see the word tournament.
Yeah.
It is about telling kind of a story of what's going on in their area. And so this is very helpful to kind of explain it to you, because it's also very different than like what we did at the 40K Flex, which was also not a tournament.
But it didn't have an overarching story theme.
Right. There was no
things
story.
Weaving it together. Really.
It was just come play a garage game, have fun.
Yeah.
That was the objective, right?
Flex,
hang out.
Yeah.
This event was 4 different war zones in this sector. They talk about all of them. Every sector or every faction kind of had like a leader person that was part of organizing the event that would stand up and tell you from your faction's perspective, here's what you're here to do. Here's what we're trying to accomplish, blah, blah, blah. And they'd kind of weave it into a story-like kind of element. Some did it better than others as they kind of got their feet under them. Mm-hmm. Because it's kind of like, it's almost kind of like acting or role-playing to a degree, where like, if you just jump in and embrace it, it's going to come across fine. But if you're hesitant about it, it doesn't come across as strong. But everybody who did it did a great job. That's not a knock on anybody there. So they kind of give us our briefing about what we're doing in the area, what, in my case, what Chaos is doing in the area. And you'll hear Brett and I talk about this later. But one of the really cool things they did, Chelle, was you go to play your game. So what would happen is we would have a leader for our group, and they'd give them a packet of all the missions for our group. And they'd say, and it was marked like a folder.
And by group, you mean Chaos?
Yeah. Okay. But Chaos was in 2 different war zones.
Oh, okay.
So this was just our leader for this war zone.
Okay.
And in that war zone, I think there were like 4 or 5 of us that were Chaos. I think there was 5. And he'd get a folder that had like a top secret stamp on it. and he'd be like, okay, here's the 4 missions we have. Some of these are team missions, so 2v2, and one of them is a 1-player versus 1-player mission, or the other way around. We have 1 mission that's 2v2 and 3 that are all single player. So the first missions we get handed are, we have, a couple 2v2 missions, and then we have this one single player mission. I had kind of met the rest of the guys in my group briefly, and we were kind of like, so what did you bring? Oh, I brought 1,000 Suns. What did you bring? I'm playing Black Legion. The guy, I'm playing Black Legion too. I'm playing Alpha Legion. Okay, cool. Hey, it's a team game. And I look at the Black Legion player. I go, hey, let's team up. Let's team up. It will be Black Legion and Black Legion versus whatever. He's like, okay, yeah. And this was, his name was Travis. Not the Travis we know. Super nice guy. Like super, super nice guy. Not from the area. I think he even flew in to come and play. So he and I kind of talk about our army, show each other models. Oh, look at this. I did this. We go over to the table where we're going to play, and we begin to set up. Now, the thing you would get is you'd get some time. So because I'm now playing a team mission, and my list that I was told to bring was 1,500 points.
You had to cut it.
You're told to bring 1,500 points, but bring some additional units, almost what they used to call like a sideboard, right? Like additional units that you could swap out if you want to. And you have half an hour to kind of recreate your list. So generally what happens is you keep like a core, like 700 or 800 points. And then you're like, maybe I'll swap this unit out with this unit. And it may be dependent upon the mission that you're going to play. Like the mission could be like, wow, if we had a lot of armor in this mission, it'd be good. Oh, well, I have all these tanks. I'll swap these tanks in. Something to that effect. But I kind of leaped ahead there because the other thing they told us at the briefing, and every group had their different objectives. And these are like kind of, you'll hear Brett call them side quests. For Chaos, it was an accumulation of what they called ascension points. And the way you would get ascension points is for every character you killed, you got a bead. And you had literally your name on a placard with a bowl in front of it.
Yeah.
And then if you kill a character, you just go take a bead from this thing and you drop it in your bowl. And the person who had the most beads at the end, like, is the Chaos champion, right? And so what's cool about this is as I was playing games and maybe I was beginning to lose the game or I was like, oh boy, I'm in real trouble here. I'd be like,
where's the character?
Where's the characters?
Yeah.
Where's the characters?
Right.
And I'd just start like nuking characters. Like I would, to the detriment of everything else, I'd just like, I'm going to go kill that character. And so I like my first mission went okay. I think I got like one of these beads.
Yeah.
And that was in this mission I played with Travis. And we, so it was Black Legion and Black Legion versus Imperial Guard and Kroot. And the Imperial Guard player, I cannot remember his name to save my life, but the Kroot player was this guy, RJ, who was really nice and really funny. And so he had like nothing but just like tons of footbound Kroot. The objective of our sector that we were, or our war zone was, it was chaos. It was primarily chaos versus Tau, of which Kroot are a sub-faction of. Yeah. And a little bit of Aldari, so Eldar.
Okay.
The Imperial Guard were considered, in this case, like they'd been conscripted by the Tau. They had sided with the Tau in this case. The game went pretty well. Travis and I did pretty good throughout the mission. By the end of it, we were losing a lot of stuff, though.
I was going to say, when I showed up, because that's the day we went to lunch.
That's right.
When I showed up, you had nothing on the table.
I had a couple things.
Okay, you had a Forge Fiend.
I think the Forge Fiend was dead. I might have had my Demon Prince on the table at that point. But here's the interesting thing about the missions is it wasn't just a win or lose on each mission.
Okay.
Not only did you have like this bead thing that we were trying to collect, but you also had the mission we received is not necessarily the same mission our opponents received. Meaning the opponents in one case, in this case, we were trying to, let's say, capture objectives. I'm trying to remember what the mission was we played.
I think that's when we had to get the cargo stuff, all right? Or you had to...
I don't remember exactly what this mission was, but I know there were objectives on the table we were trying to get to and hold. And they, like, their objective would have been...
to wipe out units.
They're trying to... Yeah, it could be they're trying to wipe out units. I can't remember. I don't remember what their secret objective was. So anyway,
I think it was number of points that they.
It was
because they were when I got there, they were trying to ask you what each
unit was
or
cost.
each piece cost
because they had to destroy a certain number of points. That's
yeah.
right. So the interesting thing about this is that they can achieve a victory, and so can we.
Right.
But usually the way it would work is one group would get a better victory,
right,
and we might get a lesser victory.
Yeah.
But it still made you feel like, well, I didn't waste my time. I still got a minor victory.
Yeah.
Right. Or we never achieved a major success. We did achieve successes.
Yeah.
And I think in that game we got a success. Even though like most of our stuff was destroyed, our mission was
you held whatever it was.
Hold these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I seem to recall they were like beacons of some kind. Anyway, so the first game is great. Like I had a great time. It was super fun. We played for the full game. we wrap up. You came down to San Jose, and we go off to lunch. And I'm telling you, it was a fun game. I had a great time. My second game that day was versus Chris and Dan, and Chris was running Leagues of Votan, and Dan was running Aldari.
So it was another doubles?
Yeah. Oh. And now that's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I've played a doubles game. It takes longer.
Yeah.
I can rock through a 1,500 point singles game pretty quick. Maybe I'll just take the singles game. So they're like, okay, here's the singles game for this round. The missions are all now totally different, right? For round 2. This is where it really comes into play. So here's, okay, I'll take the single mission. Then the 2 people who took the doubles mission are looking at the mission. They go, wait a second. It says the 2 people with the fewest amount of ascension points have to play this mission.
Oh.
So I only had 1 ascension point.
So you had to be in that.
Yeah.
I see.
And then I was joined by a Word Bearers player, and I'm so sorry, I cannot remember his name. I should remember.
You're
I'm so bad
with names.
I was even trying to take good notes. At least I know he's playing Word Bearers. And it was interesting too. I'll talk about this a little bit. But he and I both had the fewest amount of ascension points. And we're like, oh, okay, so we're paired up. We gotta play this mission. Only then does it become apparent to us as we look at the mission. We're like, wait a minute. For every psyker we kill, character psyker, which all Aldari characters in there were psykers.
Okay. And
for every ethereal we kill, which is a Tau unit, or it wasn't. It was a Tau unit, but like they had this like ethereal they were guarding the Votan guys.
Okay.
So it wasn't part of either army, but they had like an NPC that they had to like kind of keep alive.
Okay. Got it.
That was their thing. But if we got them, for everyone we killed, we got 2 ascension points. So it was really designed to kind of like take the player, who had fallen behind and said, hey, here's your chance to still be in the game. Like, don't fret, which is a very cool mechanic.
Yeah.
And so we play this mission. And at first, I'm heavy armor, meaning like I have some vehicles. I have I have 2 rhinos. I have a
Forge Fiend,
Vindicator, Forge Fiend.
Yeah.
You know, I have 2 squads of Chaos Space Marines and a squad of Terminators that I'm going to deep strike in.
All heavies.
Yeah, I had to leave my Land Raider at home because we're playing with 1,100 points each. Mm-hmm. We didn't realize our opponent was playing with like 1,000 points each. Like that was their mission. Like they were literally
less
on the back foot.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm sure there was something in their mission that said, you know, hey, maybe for the players that played better, you have to go do this where it's asymmetrical, right? It's not an equal battle. And it wasn't until the end of the game, and they're like adding up the points, and they're like,
wait a minute.
How are we supposed to get 2,001 points when you guys only had 2,000 points on the table? We're like, no, we have 1,100 points each. They're like, oh,
what the?
Now it makes sense. Right. Okay. We're like, okay. So anyway, I really looked at the Word Bearers player army, and it was all foot stuff. It was a lot of possessed, which was cool. You like your possessed, some chosen, and some other units. And I thought, boy, we're really going to be at a disadvantage here. The board is a bigger board. It's not like a tournament size board. It's even bigger than a 4x6. So it was like, oh, we got to get all the way over there. Like he's slogging it on foot all the way over there. This is going to be a problem. And as it turned out, it wasn't. Like for me, it was. You know, like I became kind of the target of them.
Okay.
And so I was losing like everything as I was racing vehicles forward, and they were realizing they were threats, but they were kind of ignoring him a bit to their detriment because he was able to kind of sweep his foot guys in. And all of a sudden, once they got in close combat, and he was running a 10-man squad of possessed, and like they were just ripping through stuff. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, they're cool.
It was, you would have really dug it. It was really cool. And we just had the most fun. And I mean, it was like, as things started to go wrong, like the first round, we're like, well, maybe we should deep strike in like my Terminators. And I think I had left the Obliterators off the table because I was like, I don't want to
use the obliterators. They'll deep strike in and then they'll be way out of position. And then finally he was like, no, bring the obliterators. So, okay, I'll bring the obliterators as well. So anyway, I deep strike in my Terminators. I deep strike in the obliterators. But by this point, I've lost so much stuff. Like my vehicles are destroyed. My Forge Fiend is gone. I'm like, all right.
Was the Demon Prince involved?
Demon Prince was dead.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, are those two Eldar characters there in the backfield? Oh, and there's the Ethereal. And I like wiped out 3 characters. I gained like 6 points, 6 ascension points in like one go. And every time I'd kill one, I'd be like, I'll be right back. And then I'd run to the other room and I'd drop my beads in. And I'm watching like my bowl fill up and everybody else is like kind of steady. I'm like, oh man, I'm on to something. And so, this ends day one. I think we pulled out a minor victory in that game, or minor success. They pulled out I think they got like a major success.
Yeah.
But I got my ascension points. So it's a kind of a nice like feature because you're like, oh sure, my army got tabled, but I'm collecting all these points back here too.
Yeah.
So I still have like a goal I'm working towards, even if I start to get in trouble, which is a really nice way to pivot a bit. So we go home. I get home, I don't know, 9:00. I mean, we're what, half hour from where we played,
30,
half hour, 35 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I come home, crash out, go back the next day. And then the next day they do like another briefing that's kind of like, here's how all of the war zones have gone. Right. And the organizers have kind of looked at like who was successful, how many major successes, how many minor successes, where do you sit? And then they kind of weave the story around that. They're like, okay, well, things didn't go as well as planned for the Chaos Forces, blah, blah, blah. We're trying to do this, you got to get back in there and, accomplish this or whatever. Okay. So cool. But I'm like, I really want to play like a single player game now. Because I don't want to.
It's a different mentality.
Team games are super
energy.
fun, but they just take a lot longer.
Yeah.
And I like to just let me just knock out a game real fast. And then I got like extra time to kind of relax for a bit, see what's going on, look around at everybody else's stuff. So I'm like, as we pair up the missions, we also get a card. So every player got to go up and choose a card, which was an enhancement for their warlord. And what I mean by that is in Crusade, you build up points and then you can buy these enhancements and increase them. This wasn't anything super great, but it was like a little like you got a little bit better.
Okay.
And so for my warlord, which was my Demon Prince, I'm like, I'm going to take this card that gives me a 6-up feel no pain, which is awesome. So in the event, he has whatever he has 10 wounds. Every wound I take, I get to roll a die. If I fail the save, I get to roll a die, and on a 6, I don't take that wound or I get it back.
Okay.
So makes him just a little bit more survivable. At least that's how it feels. Later, you'll hear Brett talk about how they gave advantages that aren't really advantages, but you feel like good about them. And that's like, did it ever come into play? No, not once. But I was like, well, if worse comes to worse, I can bank on rolling a 6, so it was kind of just a little cool. Like, and everybody, you've been fighting this war, so you get a little better. Okay, cool. Very, very cool. The other thing that they did as you walked around, they told you this at the beginning of the first day, is if something really cool happened, it was like a moment of glory, or if something really bad happened, it was like a moment of tragedy. Wave one of the people walking around over and they go, okay, what happened? And then you're like, oh, well, I was doing this and my Demon Prince went to charge this guy and rolled all ones and failed to wound him. And then, his snotling punched me in the face and killed me or whatever, whatever the story was.
Right. Okay.
Or I leaped and I destroyed this huge tank with, this guy with a power fist or whatever the case may be. And then they would go, oh, that's kind of cool. And then, so if it went really bad for you or really good for you, you would get a card, and they had like all these different cards they could hand out that were just like kind of one-time activation cards. So it'd be like, one time in this battle, if you take a wound, you get a feel no pain, or you can you're so angry, or whatever, you're +1 strength for this phase of attacks,
berserker mode or something.
yeah, whatever the case may be. I have a couple of the cards I'll show you later, but it's just like it wasn't anything. It wasn't anything overbalancing. They were always like very light.
It wasn't going to change the tide, but it made you feel like
could in an extreme case, but it made you feel like, well, I've got this thing in my pocket that I'll pull out if I need to. Yeah. And there was a time where I was like, I'm playing both these cards. And by the way, my warlord has feel no pain, and it didn't matter. I thought, it was like, okay, I think it was like, anyway. So it was very cool that like you could, and then what they would do is they would kind of note down like this happened,
yeah.
And then they would come back and kind of weave it into the story a little bit. So this second day, I upgrade my Demon Prince with this feel no pain thing. Okay, cool. I'll play a single game. Okay, I'm gonna play this single game, and I'm playing against orcs. I'm like, oh boy, okay, and this is where I meet Jim, who I was talking about with you before. We often say I'm good at meeting men on the internet. Jim I met in person. Jim is new to the area, and we went to lunch after this and talked like after the game. But he's new to the area. He's been in the area 6 months. He specifically came to the event to meet people, and hopefully find people. I'm like,
find
dude,
a community. Yeah,
you need to come join us, hang out, play some games. He's a big board gamer, role-playing player, miniature gamer. So it's like, you're going to fit in great. And he's just great attitude, really fun guy, really nice. So we have a great game. And the mission for this game is called Secure Our Forward Base. And in this case, there are a number of objectives on the table. Now, the first thing I should tell you is the table is a little bit on the smaller side in this case, which is a real problem for me because the orcs are going to get up in my grill.
In your grill.
Super fast. But now I'm bringing my 1,500 point list.
Okay.
And there's these 5 teleport homers on the board. His objective, which I suss out pretty quickly, like reading at the thing, is he is trying to destroy the objectives or crump the objectives in orc speak, right? So he's trying to destroy each of the objectives, which basically the way he does is he controls the objective and he says, instead of shooting or taking, my guys are taking an action to destroy
to do this,
right?
yeah.
Just like a normal type mission. My secret information is that I can actually repair these things, which I haven't told him. But because they're these chaos teleport homers that he's trying to destroy and I'm trying to reinforce, the more I can hold by the end of the game and keep active, the bigger victory I get.
Right.
If I lose all 5, I have a failure. If I lose 3 to 4, I have a minor success. If I lose 1 to 2, I have a success. If I lose 0, I have a major success. But the problem is orcs are so fast and they wah, which allows them to charge and then assault in the charge. And they're tougher. Like they can do that once per game. He holds off for a round or 2 and then launches his wah. He's up in my grill. Like he's on the first 2 objectives before I can even do anything. Like they're just out of my deployment zone. He's on those. He destroys them. The rest of his army races forward. He's up in my grill, but he doesn't know I can fix these things. But because they're chaos objectives, literally I can only put on the table 500 points. The rest all has to go in reserve, but gains deep strike.
Okay.
Everything. So I put out on the table like a squad of 2 5-man Legionnaires squads in a Rhino and Forge Fiend. I think my Forge Fiend. And so I put all that in. And he charges all that, but then I hold off for another round, and in round 3, I deep strike a bunch of stuff into his backfield because he has now moved forward,
right,
and has cleared out his backfield, and I am like free to drop back there. So I drop
obliterators.
There's nothing in your way back there.
I drop my Land Raider. I drop Terminators. And then I move up onto objectives. I start slaughtering some of his stuff that's just barely there in the back. And I'm like,
Repair it.
and these guys repair this. And he's like, oh, you can do that? And I'm like, yeah, it's my secret thing here. I can repair these. And he goes, I was feeling bad because I was just rolling over here. I'm like, yeah, I kind of like let you come. I wanted you to come to me so I could start. In the end, I only get a minor success. I'm only able to repair one as he kind of has to turn everything around. But by the end of the game, like I have more stuff on the table than he does. Like I have destroyed a lot of his stuff.
That's saying a lot for orcs.
Yeah, but I don't. Only certain units could repair. Like they had to be infantry type.
Okay.
So like my Land Raider couldn't pull up and repair it.
Got
it
it.
had to be like an infantry unit.
That makes sense.
So he killed my Terminators finally, and then the only thing I had left to repair stuff was obliterators, and they did some good work in this mission. So, but we had a great time, and meeting Jem was really nice. It's always nice to meet so he was kind of on your wavelength, and so I think he'll be a good addition to our group.
Cool.
And he's already in our personal Discord server. So, awesome. Yeah. So that was super cool. But we found that we finished our game super fast because one versus one, 1,500 point game. I think we were hour and a half in and we were done.
Yeah.
And so we're like, well, let's go get some lunch. So we walked over and I kind of got to know Jem a little bit. He got to know me. And then I come back and now I'm going to play another 2v2 game. And this time, the mission is called Shadow of the Colossus. And this is the one that uses my Titan, my Reaver Titan that they asked me to bring. And I based.
We worked on.
Yeah.
Oh,
go ahead.
it did help with that a little bit. Do I get some credit for that base?
How'd you help with the base? You got me glue.
I went and got you glue.
Sure, babe. Yeah. Sure, you can have some credit for that. I had base stuff.
I held it while you put the pinning in.
Oh, that's true. I think you're stretching.
Dang it.
But cool. So I had brought the Titan. I took a lot of pictures of people taking pictures of it and sending those pictures to Caleb.
Yeah, that's
just
cool.
to. I mean, Caleb painted this thing. It's my pride and joy. It's gorgeous. I was nervous about bringing it. Like there was somebody that went to go move it at one point. I'm like, let me move that, please. Yeah. But this mission was laid out. The Titan was kind of at one end of the table. And again, this is a bigger than usual table. And Brett's Tau Manta, which is the biggest flyer they sell at Forge World.
Okay.
It's huge. I'll show you pictures of it. Is at the other end. Now, normally in games like this, there are specific rules for the Titan and it can, shoot and do all this stuff. In this case, it was much more narratively brought into the game. So like the only thing we could do was move it 6 inches at a time each round. Now, you would draw lines from the base of the Titan, the edges of the base of the Titan, the outside edges, to the outside edges of the base of the Manta. And anything in that area during the shooting phase would take a D3 plus 1 mortal wounds. So no saves. You get feel no pains, but like the problem is you move it like that danger zone, as they called it,
kept shifting.
Would shift. And so we would try to shift it over the opponent's stuff.
Right.
And it would move in the command phase. And so then they had their movement phase, or rather, I would move the Titan and then I have my movement phase to try to get out of the zone of danger, but leave his stuff in it.
Yeah.
And then the wounds happen. And meanwhile, they're trying to do the same thing to us.
Right.
Additionally, there were a couple other things. Like if I were fully within 12 inches of the Titan, you got a feel no pain 6-up for the unit that was there. And for their unit, they would get these things called marker lights where they can spot units and they get easier to hit for the Tau. So it led to, there were like 7 objectives on the table that we were trying to hold. And we're playing RJ again and his massive amount of crew guys. And he's paired with Jack, who turns out to be a friend of Adon's son down in Southern California.
Oh, okay.
And Jack had Tau, and he brought like all the vehicles with like their high powered weapons. So it was like a perfect combination of stuff for them. Meanwhile, I'm playing with
Oh, I'm sorry. I take that back. Jack was on my team. Jack was Thousand Sons. I'm playing RJ and Ollie. Ollie's brought Tau. RJ has Kroot. Jack has Thousand Sons. I have Black Legion. And Jack's Thousand Sons are doing like amazing damage. Because the other thing you could do is you could target the Titan or target the Manta. You couldn't actually destroy it. But if you could cause 10 wounds to it, and they gave it like a profile, and they had identical profiles. Mm-hmm. But if you could cause 10 wounds to it, you'd get an additional victory point that round.
Oh, okay.
You couldn't do like 20 wounds wouldn't mean 2, just
right.
one.
One time you could do this one thing.
Each round, yeah. For a maximum of 5 extra points, right? Meanwhile, we're trying to capture objectives, have more objectives than the opponent. And we don't do that. We don't do that very well. Although Jack like continues to pump wounds into their Titan with one sorcerer. Mm-hmm. It's just like doing like 18.
Their Manta, you mean?
Yeah, their Manta. I don't know how he was doing. I got to talk to him because like his sorcerer was just dealing out wounds that this thing could not handle. Huh. So it was pretty interesting. So I'm very excited that Thousand Sons have just been announced as a early order, so I can go back to my Thousand Sons for a while. That being said, the game is absolutely super fun. Like we had just a blast of a time playing. That was the thing. So this event, like every game I played was fun.
Yeah.
I did. And normally when you go to an event like this, not necessarily a narrative event, you go to a tournament, you go to whatever, you're bound to draw somebody that you're like, this is not very fun.
Right.
Everybody here had like a great attitude. Like everybody I talked to, even outside the people I played, were like, I've had so much fun. Like the people are great. The games have been super fun. It was just 2 days of pure, absolute 40K fun. Yes.
Awesome.
And then at the end, they do this whole thing with, summing up kind of, okay, so what's happened, and what have you accomplished? What has your team been able to accomplish?
Yeah. And
so in that sense, you're also kind of sharing in the victory or sharing in the defeat,
Right.
Nobody was outright like defeated. It was all like shades of victory or loss. Right. And then, different, if you had the most ascension beads or whatnot, right, you get named and you get put into the thing, or your lord does and whatnot. I thought I had the most, but this Alpha Legion guy just like leaped ahead.
Yeah.
Additionally, they were playing games of Kill Team. They had like a Kill Team thing set up, and those Kill Team games would also affect our games in some ways too. It was super fun. It was exactly the kind of event I would love to play in again. And so next year, I'm very much going to play in this event again. And it was just like everybody was super casual. Like, and like I'd walk up to the table, like when I met Jim, I walked up to the table and like, hey, I'm Carl, blah, blah, blah. I go, by the way, like, I'm super casual player here.
Yeah.
Like, don't even worry about like if you need to take a move back, if you're, if you didn't mean to do something, we'll work it out.
Forgot to roll something.
Yeah, no big deal. No big deal. And there was a moment where he's like, oh, I forgot to do something. Like, just do it. It's fine. Yeah. Whatever.
Well, wasn't it the first game you played? Didn't one of the guys, he's normally very competitive.
Yes.
And he was like,
that was my teammate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Travis.
Yeah.
Let me know if I'm being too aggressive or too.
Or if I'm a jerk. He used a different word. And I was like, okay. But he turned out to be like, I actually wish he was local.
Yeah.
Like he was so fun to play with.
Yeah.
And taught me some interesting things about the Chaos Codex too. That I was like, oh, that's really cool. That's good because I'm working on, Vashtor, the Archifane, and a bunch of demon engines. I see how that's really powerful.
Yeah.
And I mean, most of us that were Chaos that were playing together were like, yeah, always be dark pacting. like everybody's dark pacting,
Yeah.
And it's so funny when your opponent's laughing because they're like, you've done more damage to yourself than you've done to me. Just wait.
I'm not done.
When it goes hot, it's going to go hot. And there were times where it went hot. Man, Forge Fiends. Everybody was like, oh, these Forge Fiends, man. They're just, it's a great unit for us. So anyway, the game was fantastic. The wrap up was fantastic. I was tired and ready to go by the end of the day, but I wasn't like exhausted.
Yeah.
If I were to play 3 games in a day, I'd just be mentally exhausted and drained.
Yeah.
There was a whole, like almost everybody got a prize. In fact, everybody did get a prize unless they left because they had extra prize support too.
That's awesome.
And basically they, people got awards, some trophies for various things, best painted, that kind of stuff. And then it was a drawing. And they just did drawing. They drew names out in order, and then you got to go up to a table and pick your thing. And they had said, go take a look at the table, kind of pick out a couple things in advance so that you're not spending 30 seconds up there. We have to go through 50 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I had kind of picked out, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll take those Chaos Havocs for Chelle's army, in the event that, they're gone. Okay. Then I'll just take that squad of Chaos Space Marine. They're gone. Like, you know what? I just need some dice. Like, I don't need anything. Yeah. Like, they had painting materials and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I'll just take some dice. Yeah. So I got 2 dice with the Maelstrom Mixer logo on it, 2 packs of dice, which are the color I love. So I was like,
they'll go with your 1,000 Suns sponsor.
That's what I was telling Brett. So, because he had asked, well, what did you get? And I said, I got these dice. I go, that's all I wanted. I go, look around this room, Brett. I don't really need any of this stuff. I do not need any of this stuff. Which is a pretty great place to sit because then you're like, I want to have other people to get what they're after. Yeah. So great event. Brett's going to come on in just a few minutes, and we will have a long conversation about what it takes to organize something like this, and he'll go into a little more depth about it. But we've already recorded that piece, so that's why I'm referring to it. A little behind the scenes view there. Brett asked me yesterday, he goes, can I ask you a question? And I said, sure. Because, I never answer questions. And he goes, what do you think it would take to get Chelle to come to this? And I said, and this is what I told him. I said, 1, we would have to play a lot more, so she'd be more comfortable with the rules. And I said, he goes, well, what's her major holdup on this? I said, correct me if I'm wrong. Her major holdup is that she doesn't want to be seen as the person holding somebody back from playing the game or having to teach her the game while they're playing. Like, she just doesn't want to be that person that's in the way. Am I summarizing that?
Yeah.
Is there other components to that? Probably a little anxiety stuff too.
Anxiety stuff and just, kind of like
so then
lack of confidence.
Yeah. But if you were more confident in the rules, do you think that would overcome a little bit of that? And then, by the way, Brett and I had a long discussion about how we take for granted how complicated this is.
Right.
Teaching you how to play and watching you. And I told Brett, I go, she's very smart. Like, she's a teacher. She understands this stuff. I go, but watching her try to grasp like all these rules brought it home to me that I'm like, there's actually quite a few rules.
Yeah. When we've talked about
I've played for 15 years.
We've talked about that in a couple of the shows that I have been on. That there's a lot going on, and one of my biggest hangups is not knowing how to play against somebody else.
Right.
Right.
And sometimes you gotta just be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Just I'm gonna do this, and this does it. Yeah, cool. Just tell me how many wounds I'm rolling for at what AP.
Yeah. A little bit of that.
I'll tell you right now, I don't understand Tau. Like, they're like, oh, this marker like does this. So okay, cool.
Okay.
So I need 2s to hit. Good. All right, tell me AP what? Jeez. Okay. What I said to Brett was, I think there's 2 things that would really help. 1, if Chelle got more comfortable with the rules to the point where she really understood a lot more of them. I go, or 2, if she played in team games and that I was her teammate or somebody else that we know, because he wanted to get like Lars to come play and all those guys that come play. And I go, or if it were somebody else that she knew, like Josh or somebody that she was comfortable with, I think then she would be fine in that environment.
It would be better.
Yeah. You think you'd probably be nervous at first. Because it'd be kind of the first event you went to.
Well, yeah. Maybe.
Yeah. But I think, I don't know. I'm going to try to convince you to go.
So if we look at Space Hulk.
Yes. Oh, that's the other thing they want you to run there.
But if you look at me and Space Hulk, because I'm so supported by the Basement of Death guys, I can be confident in playing it.
Right.
Even there, I'm a little nervous and
which
makes me aggressive.
Is that what makes you aggressive? They love, by the way.
But I mean, I just, the having that support system around me helps me.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
I think that helps anybody.
So yes, if one of our
friends
or teams or stuff, playing a team game, I'd be more comfortable for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to try to convince you to go to this next time.
Okay.
Especially if I can like, and I mean, we'll work it out, but if I can guarantee like, oh, you're always going to play in a team game with somebody, hopefully somebody, well, we'll work it out.
Okay.
I'm going to convince you to go. Or the other thing is you go and play and I just help you along, like I don't, which I would be happy doing too, So I told him you got angry at me. I didn't bring your Night Lords because I had said I was going to bring your Night Lords.
I was.
Yeah. And I brought my Black Legion instead.
Yeah. And you didn't win Best Painted, did you?
I did not. I don't think I would have. There were some pretty
really
amazing
nice looking. They were cool.
painted armies there. Like really, really good stuff. But I think it would have been more flashy.
Yeah.
Your army is way more flashy than mine. I think we gotta begin a Rocky montage of training to get you up to stuff. We've got a year to get you to the point where you're super comfortable.
Well, I had already said I had the goal of playing in the Flex
That's true.
at Adepticon next
That's
year.
true.
So I'm already have a
You're already in that
little goal.
mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's solo. But I mean, we can also pick who you play against, right? So, but that's not a team game too. Yeah. So I think the Flex is going to be interesting next year as I think we'll have a little more support on the app so that we will be able to pair people up faster and easier, as well as put the more competitive minded folks against each other. Yeah. So I think that'll be good. And we'll have more support, like just running it with a bunch of the guys here wanting to help out too. So that'll be cool. But but we also need to talk about Space Hulk because I think honestly, I think you'd have to make a choice of do I run Space Hulk or do I play in the event?
Space Hulk at the
Maelstrom? the Friday before.
Oh.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously you wouldn't do it alone, like myself and probably even somebody
Space
else.
Hulk I can't run it alone.
No. Probably even like Josh or somebody would help us out. So there'd be like three of us working as the Basement of Death people, working people through it. So we'll talk about that because I think you could not do both. Like you couldn't run that and then come back the next. I think it'd just be too much. It'd be overkill.
We'll see.
It'd be overkill.
No, I'm sure for sure.
Okay.
I'm saying we'll see which one we want to push me.
Which one you want to go towards? Yeah. Okay. But I will say, coming out of this event,
I've never played more than one game in a day.
I know.
To jump into 4 games in 4 days, that's...
No, 4 games in 2 days.
4 games. What did I say? 4 games.
4 games in 4 days, which would be 1 game
4
a day.
games in 2 days.
So it's 2 games a day. But you get like a nice long break between them.
Still, it's a lot.
It is a lot.
But
it is a lot. It is a lot.
We'll go into training camp.
Training montage begins.
We'll see what happens this summer.
Now.
Now?
All right. Well, listen. Thanks for letting me ramble at you.
Mm-hmm.
It's always easier with somebody else to talk to, even somebody who hasn't done any hobby progress since January. What can I get? Okay, let's do this.
Okay. Let's
both make a commitment to do some hobby thing before the next episode records.
2 weeks?
What? Yeah, 2-ish weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
What are you going to work on?
I have no idea. What am I even?
You've got your squad, the Night Lord squad.
I want to do not Master of the Possessed. The other one I have.
Not the Master of Possession. The like Tech Marine guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What the hell?
What's he called?
I'm drawing a blank. I've got mine done, but that's the force I want to build towards. What's it called? It's driving me nuts.
It's driving me nuts too.
I've never used them before, so it'll be interesting to use. But I watched Travis use it, and I was like, "Oh, I see how it's used."
Was it Travis? No, it wasn't Travis using it.
No, Travis at the event.
Your new Travis.
New Travis. Yeah, yeah. He was a pretty cool guy.
Cool.
Not as cool as our Travis, but he was cool.
There's no such thing as cool as our Travis.
I'll get
that guy done.
You'll get that guy done. I will get my next Forge Fiend done. So I have 2 Forge Fiends
But
in the next 2 weeks.
it's already got the gold on it.
It's got the gold on it. I
I'm
need to do all the skins.
I said I would do the gold edging, but
I have to do all the
it's done,
skins
I'm
and
okay.
metallics and
Yeah.
airbrush the glowing effects and stuff.
Okay. That's going to be hard.
Yeah, we got a lot coming up.
We have no time this
We got our
upcoming weekend.
kid going to graduation.
Next week, well, that's a ways away.
Oh, right. Well,
In
we
the
got
next
the wedding
2
we're
weeks,
going
we're
to.
gone for a wedding all weekend.
Tuesday nights are hobby nights. You set that aside for us.
I did.
And we've not done a one of them.
Because we've been playing board games with
All right.
Aaron on Tuesday.
This Tuesday is hobby night.
Okay.
All right.
After I get my nails done.
You getting your nails done?
Yes, for the wedding.
And I'm not airbrushing them? You don't want lightning bolts on them for the wedding? Okay. All right. Yes, this is going to be challenging.
Okay.
But I'm going to get mine done.
I'm going to slap shop it up.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. I think I've already got the lightning bolts on them, don't I?
No.
Oh, that guy needs lightning bolts. So I got to do some of the work on that guy. Yeah. All right. Okay. No problem. Listen, I will get that done, but then you got to finish them.
Okay, I will.
All right. And I'm going to do my Forge Fiend.
Okay.
All right. By next episode,
By next episode that I'm on.
which will be the next episode.
Darn it.
I'm going to bring you in specifically to speak about what you've done. All right. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I really hope you guys enjoy this interview with Brett. The other thing I just want to throw out there really quick is I did have an interview with Greg Dan out in Europe about a charity event that he has been doing. That has now closed, unfortunately, so I'm not going to air the interview with Greg, but it was a great effort for a great cause. And if you want to know more about that, you can reach out to Greg Dan. I'll put a link in the show notes to his podcast and you can hear all about it, but it was a really nice effort. And I apologize to Greg. We did record the interview, but then schedules didn't work out for us to get this episode out on time. So anyway, next time. Until then, enjoy this interview with Brett, who's joining us next time we're playing here too. And he may join our more time game. So I'm trying to convince him to do all this stuff. And then we'll see you next time. All right, so here we are, and I'm joined by Brett.
Hello.
Hey, Brett. Thanks for coming over.
Thank you so much for having me, Carl.
Too bad the rest of the team's all burnt out from the Maelstrom Mixer.
Yeah, wait 2 weeks, and maybe we could have gotten them here, but
That's fine. I'm already late. I'm already late on this episode. So, obviously, I brought you over to talk specifically about the Maelstrom Mixer. But before we can even get into that, we got to talk a little bit about Faultline 40K.
yeah, awesome.
And Faultline 40K was a group that I was initially, I think I was one of the founding kind of people in.
Yeah, one of the super early guys.
Yeah, and then I stepped away from it for a while. Like life
happens.
moves on, but our focus at that time was narrative games, and we'll talk about that too. Mm-hmm. Narrative games, fully painted.
Yeah.
Great terrain.
Yeah.
Like trying to recreate the look of Games Workshop battle reports.
Box art.
We weren't.
Yes.
We weren't trying to create battle reports, but trying to evoke the narrative, if you will.
Yeah. I feel like cinematic is the right.
That's
is
a good word. Yeah,
like
that's a good word.
The vibe has always been about telling visual storytelling.
Yeah.
With combination of amazing terrain, well painted models, and some kind of narrative
Yeah.
scenario.
Yeah. And so I stepped away from it for several years, and then discovered you guys were now playing regularly over at the Guild House in San Jose.
Yeah.
Which is a great location for
the
it.
The club changed hands a couple times.
Yeah.
And then I sort of feel like we're on the maybe fourth generation of membership turnover. And talking with Zach, who is one of the other founders of the club,
I would say Zach drove a lot of that initial stuff.
Yeah, he told me recently how excited and happy he was that the club is kind of still going and thriving.
Yeah,
because one of the early missions of the club that he talks a lot about is that it should carry on after, it should outlast any one individual club member. And it definitely has done that. It's, people come and go. The Bay Area has a lot of turnovers, a lot of transients, and people, have other things going on in their lives. And we've had a number of, fresh blood, new additions, bring new people to the game. People kind of get burnt out on competitive play. Yeah. And so the club's, it's got a whole bunch of new faces, which is amazing.
Yeah. I think it shows the sign of like a healthy organization that it can transfer like that and then continue on. And then, since I started going back to the club, I met you and I was like, oh, you got to come over and hang out with us. I'll talk later, but I met Jim at the Maelstrom Mixer, who's kind of new to the area. And I was like, and I told him too, like, my friends are fond of saying I'm picking up men on the internet. I'm good at picking up men on the internet.
That's true.
all the time. Yeah. And it's been Jeff, Doug, like all these that we've rotated through. But I've made like lifelong friends as a result of the game and just, fun times.
That's what you hope will happen.
Yeah.
But when Faultline got its start, it definitely used the word narrative a lot in its branding. I am no longer the club president, but I was for a period of years. And in that time, I realized that actually narrative is probably the wrong word to use. I like describing it as a social club for people who enjoy socializing through their shared love of Warhammer.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would say the direction changed a bit.
Yeah.
It used to be very focused on narrative, and we'll talk in a second about what that means. But now I notice with the group, I go there are folks who want to practice for LVO that is coming up. There is, folks that when we sit down, they're very precise about all the measurements of where objectives are going to be. I'm so casual about that stuff. I'm like, it looks about right.
I think, we always encourage people. There's a bunch of ways to play the game.
Absolutely.
And the important thing is
actually, that's one of the things I like about it.
Yeah. The important thing is just to have a conversation with your opponent before you get started about what you're looking for. Are you looking for a practice for a competitive event? Are you here to just try out a new unit? And so you want to put some models on the table that allow you to play with something new that you just painted? Or are you super excited about, you saw a new movie and you want to recreate some scene from that movie of bugs crashing over some ramparts and valiant defenders holding off waves of whatever it is. And there's all are valid, and it's just about being on the same page, and all can be fun.
Yeah. I've had a lot of good games since I kind of started going back to playing, and actually I haven't been back on Thursdays for a while since started the job, and
life happens.
Happens. But I always know it's there. It's like, I'm still on the Discord, and like I see, they're organizing this, or there's a day coming up. I love the way you guys are organizing on Discord. You'll put up a post in advance of each day of the month that people are meeting, which is Thursdays, and then you're like, give a thumbs up if you're coming that day, and then you can arrange for games. So easy.
It's super nice to be able to do all that in advance, so you're not showing up for a pickup game that doesn't end up happening.
You don't want to show
an odd number.
Pickup games are. I never do pickup games at this point. Never do pickup games. I always
sign of adulthood.
But we also live in a world where we have a plethora of opponents that we get to choose from. Fortunately, in our group, there is somebody. If you wanted to play today, there is somebody we could find to play today.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's why when you guys were. At one point, I think some people had dropped for the Maelstrom Mixer, and I was like, if you have an odd number of players, I can probably find you somebody. It's like not hard. We could get somebody down here.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So that's Faultline.
That's Faultline, which has just been, like you said, you were president for several years. You're supposed to be president for 1 year. You went through the pandemic and all that. And then you finally got to step away.
Yeah.
I appreciated that you felt a sense of ownership about it enough to be like, we have to come up with a plan for how to hand this off so that it doesn't die on the vine, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we had some new folks join during the pandemic who were awesome, and it's been great getting to know them. I guess nobody was like chomping at the bit to take it over, and I also was in a place where I had some sort of, I don't know if unfinished business the right word, but some things that I wanted to do with the club and to experiment with and to try that I hadn't had a chance to. So I was happy to continue, keeping the lights on, doing the work.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, dude. There's a reason I didn't go, hey, why don't I take a run at Nope.
Running any kind of club it's unpaid and it's kind of thankless.
It's very much so.
And
all you're going to hear mostly is the complaints.
It's the complaints.
I can promise you today, but you are not going to hear complaints from me.
But there's an element of satisfaction and enjoyment that can come from it too, especially if it's the right group and it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of fun doing it, but yeah, this past year I stepped back from running the club, but offered to continue sort of my work with running this annual flagship event, Maelstrom Mixer. And so that was kind of my main contribution in the last year was sort of continuing to work on organizing the event.
Yeah. And before we go into the Maelstrom Mixer, we were talking before we turned on the mics. One of the things we've been discussing on the show over the last 4 or 5 episodes, it keeps coming up, and I keep telling myself, okay, I'm going to stop talking about it. But I think it's an important distinction is what does narrative actually mean?
Yeah. Everyone's got a different definition.
Yes.
And GW has a definition.
Absolutely.
I don't particularly agree with it. So I think a lot of people.
What do you see GW's narrative?
Well, it's
this definition as
they've made it really obvious what they think it is because they've written it in their books. It's called Crusade.
Yeah.
And frankly, I hate it.
Fair enough. I kind of like it, but I understand why people don't.
I'll tell you why. It is billed as I guess hypothetically it is fine. Mm-hmm. But I think it's false. I think there's an element of false advertising. So I think what GW wants you to think it is this fun introductory way to get into Warhammer. It's sort of casual. It's fun.
Oh, it's not introductory.
It's they want it to be narrative. They want it to sort of be, I don't know. I feel like they're billing it as a low stakes way to get into the game. Mm-hmm. And I see it as multiple additional layers of complexity.
Yes.
There's no inherent story. It is a system of upgrades that you can earn for your units. It's a tech tree that you can navigate to level up your units. So it's like additional complexity, additional decision making, additional layers of optimization, all of which appeal to gamers, like people who want to game the system. Like, how do I optimize this? How do I tweak that? Add this buff on top of that? How many additional layers of buffs can I add on top of my guys?
Yeah.
And it's fun. It tickles a part of your brain that is very interesting for a lot of us.
For sure.
But it for me personally, the more I play Crusade and the longer I play Crusade, the more I find myself going into the dark gamer hole of
I get you. I can see that.
I find myself it's hard for me to resist just like super optimizing everything. And I get some people are like, well, you should just roll the upgrades so they're random. But then the person who gets there's one good one on the chart. And if you don't get the good one, the other guy in your group does.
Have you played much Necromunda?
Yeah. So better off, I feel like, just let people pick it. But then it's like, I guess to me, it feels like another layer of upgrades that you can.
I actually agree with you 100%. It's certainly not an introductory way to get into 40K. It does add layers of complexity to it. I think it can be narrative, but I don't think it in itself is narrative.
Exactly.
I think it's just another set of rules that allow you to, and I think there's some cool narrative elements to it, but I think it's up to you to determine how that narrative
You
goes.
need to bring your own story.
Yes.
It's a level up experience system.
I mean, the latest one has like story behind it and what's
Sure.
going on,
Yeah.
and you're trying to, but it doesn't. And when we talk about Maelstrom Mixer, I'm really going to focus on these missions because, this was.
It can snowball too, I guess, is another thing.
It can. Like Necromunda can.
Right.
Right.
And so I feel like Crusade is best played in small chunks,
Yes.
3 to 4 to 5 games, and then you end it and you start over.
Yeah.
Because you let it go too long, the person who's had
They're just gonna run away
the
with it.
early success gets all the upgrade, and there's no sort of inbuilt comeback mechanic, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Limiting it to like maybe 10 games would be like super solid.
I guess they did do there is some kind of comeback mechanic. You're supposed to get extra CP if you're behind on Crusade points, but it never feels like enough.
Nah, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. Okay.
So that's what GW thinks narrative is.
What do you think narrative is?
So I think you can have
And again, I'm using that word, but you wanted to steer away from it a little bit.
I think it's actually weird. I feel like narrative is anything with a story. So you can bring the most meta competitive 40k army, but if you've got a backstory, if you're a captain, if your unit choices, if you tweak a few of your unit choices, this guy he doesn't really trust the. So I play Tau. So like in my story for my Tau commander, he's like.
This is, by the way, why it's more shocking that we're friends.
Tau players with a reputation. In my headcanon, my Tau commander doesn't trust the new fancy tech. He's like a curmudgeon-y old dude, and the ion technology that the Tau Empire got from the Votan, he's like not really into it because it can overcharge and it can kill people. He doesn't trust it. He's like, look, the Empire has been fine with missiles and railguns and fusion blasters. Why do we need impulse rifles? Why do we need ion? We don't need this. We don't need this new stuff. We're fine. We're doing fine without it. And so I bring an army where I don't have any, it's like a fun little, it's a list building constraint, but it's got a story behind it.
A self-imposed, yeah.
But it does, narrative doesn't have to be that either. Like you don't need to have a self-imposed list building restraint. You can just come up with a cool story for your guys. Give them a name. And it's sort of more of a head exercise than it is. It doesn't have to be represented in your list building if you don't want it to. It doesn't have to be represented in how you play the game if you don't want to. But I feel like if you've spent a little bit of time thinking about the backstory for your guys and why they're here and what they're doing and what motivates them, then that's it. That's the minimum requirement for like a narrative game. And I'm using air quotes here that none of you can see.
No, we could hear them over the printers in the background. I think that really sums it up. Like every time we sit down to a table to play, we're like, well, what are you doing here and what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Okay, now we've got a story.
You spend 30 seconds setting the stage.
It just feels different.
And it makes such a big difference. You maybe move a few terrain pieces. All right, I'm the attacker, you're the defender. You're going to start here. Let's tweak the deployment zones a little bit. All right, what if we give you automatic first turn, but I'll get to redeploy some things. Bam, we're done.
Yeah.
Narrative scenario.
Yeah, totally. So, okay. So the Maelstrom Mixer. First off, was the first one last year?
No, first one was 2019.
Okay, I didn't go to the first one then.
Yeah, and that was before I was club president, and I'd just gotten into the club. I just joined the club, actually. I didn't even play at the event. I had a conflict on one of the days, and so I helped run some things on the first day, but then couldn't make it to the second day. And it was before the pandemic. It was at Game Castle.
Oh, okay, in Santa Clara.
In Mountain View.
Oh, right, that was the big one before they closed that one.
Right.
That was a great site.
And then after the pandemic, we kind of rebooted the idea of Maelstrom Mixer at Guild House, where the club is now based. In 2023 was the first one. So this is kind of the 4th year we've been doing Maelstrom Mixer, but the 3rd year at Guild House.
Okay.
So it's 23, 24, 25 have been the 3
Okay. So I went to
Guild House
24 and 25.
events.
Okay. What from the get-go was the idea, hey, let's set up this narrative type event. And it's interesting, like, and I use that term here because there is story behind it and everything, but also it's important for people to realize, and I saw this when I was running the 40K Flex at Adepticon that you came over and we were talking a bit about it. When people would sign up, they'd be like, well, how is this tournament run? I go, well, let me disabuse you of that notion right here. This is
It's not a tournament.
It's absolutely not a tournament. Like win or lose doesn't matter. You know, this is, if you're looking for a tournament, it's right over there across the hall.
Yeah.
You know,
if you go to maelstrommixer.com, which is the event webpage, you will not find the word tournament on the website. And that's intentional.
So yeah, I think that's very calculated.
40K narrative experience.
There you go. There you go. Have you been to any of the grand narratives?
Yeah, I went to the very first one in Albuquerque.
Okay.
And then then after that first year, they moved it to Atlanta. I went to the second one. Didn't go last year, which is the third one.
Yeah.
And I'm not planning on going.
I went to their narrative event up in Washington. Like there was a tournament and then they had a narrative section. The terrain was beautiful. Again, having difficulty narrowing down on the narrative, like it just didn't. Yeah, it didn't hit like your guys' event hit for me.
I feel like a lot of narrative. I mean, everyone is. It's sort of the Wild West of narrative Warhammer right now.
Yeah,
there's a handful of folks out in the world who are running narrative. There's not a lot of us. You know, I'd say maybe there's 15 people in the United States who are trying to sort of innovate on narrative events. Okay. And everyone's got a different idea of what makes for a good event. And so if you go to LVO narrative, if you go to Tacoma, if you go to one of the GW narrative events, like you said, Tacoma or the Grand Narrative, it'll be a very different experience than Nova. It'll be a very different experience from LVO. It'll be a very different experience from Maelstrom Mixer.
That's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing.
I think that's actually, you can find the experience you like
completely
and then hone in on it and learn from it. So what I would say is, are there any things you saw at like the GW narrative that you were like, oh, we have to take this idea?
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's got to be bits and pieces of everybody stealing from everybody, which is not, again, that's not bad. This is like, take what you need.
So GW's big innovation is, I think there's two things that I think GW is doing that are absolutely amazing. Everything is, they have the opportunity, they have the official story writers, the GW copywriters who write all the lore. So they have these super well-established backstory for all their NPCs. They put out these really high quality, high production value pamphlets, PDFs ahead of time. Everything, the graphic design is impeccable. You show up at the event, your hotel room key is like branded with the event.
Sure.
You know, you get all this swag. You're sort of, it is very experiential. And so their sort of production value on the print media
can be very high.
Is super high. And one of the other things they do is the idea of these narrative cutscenes that are portrayed with paid acters.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. They have cosplay folks who dress up as these NPCs.
Yeah.
And this is not a dig, but I remember the first time sort of seeing this in full form. I was reminded of, did you ever play Command and Conquer?
Yes.
The real-time strategy.
You're going to talk about the cutscenes in Command and Conquer.
Oh my gosh.
In a way, I love it though. Like that's kind of
absolutely love it. Yeah, this is not at all a dig. I remember as a kid playing that video game, and I would get through the missions just so that I could watch the cutscene.
Sure.
And it felt, going to a Grand Narrative event feels very much like that. You're like, I'm going to go play a game of Warhammer, and then I'm going to see the impact of the outcome of my success or failure. Like,
it's kind of neat,
acted out by these paid actors
that's pretty cool form. Actually,
it's pretty cool.
That's pretty top notch. I mean, that would take that's some money that you're spending.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember the first year we went in Albuquerque, they had these different, each it was at a hotel. The event was at a hotel, and so all these little conference rooms, and each conference room was a different planet. And so there was like a desert planet, and all the lights were turned up really bright in the room. They did all these things to make the room feel like the world. They had a soundscape, they had a speaker and a playlist playing that was like sound effects from the planet. So it was a combination of music, but also like dust and like tumbleweeds and and then what else would happen? And there'd be dust. So maybe they'd have like in the jungle room, they might have a mister. So like the room would be sort of heavy and moist and
that's exactly what my models need.
Yeah. And they had a sense. This was like the era of the GW candles. So,
God.
There were like diffusers set up with different smells from each of the planets. And so you'd walk into this room that in the
hey, we're on this sewage planet. No.
Yeah.
They got to back up
in the frigid Arctic world. They turned down the air conditioner by 3 degrees. So it felt cold in the room, right? They like kind of went over the top with a lot of these meta elements to make you feel like you were on this planet, which I thought was super neat. And no one had ever done that before.
Yeah.
In addition to the sort of paid cosplayers. So they're doing, and the high production value on the mission documents and stuff. So there's a lot of things that they had really done like super well. I feel like the one thing that bothered me about the GW events in general and the Grand Narrative in particular is because it's Games Workshop, they have to use the Games Workshop narrative system, Crusade. They have to use Crusade.
I used it up in Washington.
Tacoma,
and it's like a accelerated version of it a bit. But
But if you don't do your Crusade homework in between rounds, you're going to go up against somebody who's got 17 upgrades on all their units. And
ran into a brass scorpion that every upgrade had been put on the brass scorpion.
And it feels bad. It feels bad.
So you guys let's talk Maelstrom Mixer because you guys had an interesting solution to that, and I overheard you at one point. The organizers would walk around, and if you had really great events happen to you or really tragic events happen to you, you could be given a card by one of the GMs. You would just explain what happened. They give you a card, and those cards were like, you get a 6+ feel no pain on your warlord from now on, or
one time per game. Yeah.
Some of them were longer than that. But I remember you saying, I think you said to me, so that feel no pain or come up, I'm like, no, like I took wounds, I never rolled a 6, and you're like, and you turned as well, you're like, see, you give what appears to be an advantage, but it's not really much of an advantage. And I think that's really a good point, because you know what, that 6+ could have come into play, and it would have been epic if it did.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I still lost the Demon Prince. So
yeah, I think so. We do a couple things. We don't use Crusade. At the event itself is 2 days.
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday. At the start of the second day, we have this selection of upgrade cards that we've prepared in advance, and everybody gets to pick one as a permanent upgrade to their warlord.
That's great.
And so it's like you get to feel like in the second day, one of your dudes is powering up a little bit.
And by the way, 2 games a day. So
2 games a day.
It's a reasonable advancement for the amount of time you've spent.
Yeah. And then, but yeah.
And I'll tell you, as a person experiencing it, like I did feel like, I'm taking this one with the feel no pain on a Demon Prince, because that would be amazing. He often becomes a target, and it's like, well, he has a 4-up Benvuln, but if I fail that, maybe I get lucky and make some of these feel no pain rolls, right? Like, okay.
And some of them were pretty situational. Like there was one that was like your warlord gets an extra wound.
Yeah, or something.
One weapon on your warlord gets
higher strength or something. Yeah, that was the other good one.
But it's one weapon.
Right.
So unless you've got a, Leman Russ.
And it was specific to your warlord. Right. So, yeah.
And so, and some of them were like, you get to pick a friendly unit within 6 inches at the start of the game to get Scout 6.
Right,
or something.
right.
So there's like some utility stuff. But we picked a lot of buffs that already exist in the game and just allow you to sprinkle it onto it.
I thought it was a really great, like there was nothing overbalanced there. And that's whenever you start messing with rules, that's always the tricky thing.
You need to have a light touch.
Yeah. And it was perfect. It was perfect.
But yeah, like you said, the one-use cards were given out during the event
right.
for as part of the system that we implemented So we give out an award for the most epic moment and the most tragic moment during the event. And the idea here is that at a competitive event, at a competitive tournament, whenever you have a rules dispute, you raise your hand, you call over the TO, you explain what happened, your opponent gets argue, present your case, whatever the TO sort of rules one way or the other. No, here's how the rule gets applied in this case, and you continue on with your game.
Right.
At a narrative event, we wanted a similar sort of interaction with the event organizers, but for like positive reasons, not like, oh, like I'm arguing about the rules.
No. And the nice thing about the cards is it put it in the player's hands. It wasn't like you came in and interjected and said, well, now something happens.
Yeah.
You're like, well, here, I'm going to give you this little thing that you can use when you feel you need to.
So we added, so one of the these are 2 prizes you can get at the event. And the idea is that when something cool happens to you, you call an event organizer over, tell us the story of what just the cool thing that just happened on the table. And we take notes, we write it down. At the end of the event, we compare all the stories we've gotten from people and hand out an award to the person with the coolest thing that happened to them and the most tragic thing that happened.
Right. Well, and you know what they say about comedy. It's just tragedy plus time.
That's right. Yeah. No, they're very often flip sides of the same coin. So you try with your commissar on one wound to charge in and finish off the bloodthirster. And if you roll 3 6s in a row, you're a candidate for epic moment.
That's
and
right.
if you don't, you're a candidate for tragic moment.
That's right.
Because you get smashed down to the ground and your commissar dies, and it's tragic. But yeah, at the same time, as we sort of take notes and enter you sort of in the running for this award at the end of the event, we also have these one-use cards that we hand out as a way to sort of thank you for doing this. We want to encourage people to do it. And people can be a little shy at things like this. Hey, I'm going
to do it more next year.
We'll give you a one-use item that you can use later on in the event.
I'm full of tragedy.
But so, if you walk up and your guy just like completely whiffs in Overwatch to finish the last wound in a squad and they capture the objective and win the game, we'll give you a card for free Overwatch. Here, try again next.
Right.
So yeah,
I thought they were fantastic.
Yeah. And it turns out those little magic cards, to get those printed, are super reasonably priced.
Very, very accessible.
Very easy. We spend like $20-$30 on card printing, and we get a stack that we can hand out all day long.
Yeah.
And it's a tactile, fun thing that people really appreciate.
Yeah, I kept mine. Like,
nice.
It's like, oh, cool.
I don't have a use for it.
I have like a little like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just a little souvenir.
Yeah.
I got, obviously I got the cup and all that other stuff that you get just for signing up. But, so you have this, but the other thing, you have an overarching story that's going on in the area, and we don't really have to go into depth about it. But there are certain things that you do that are so specific to it. For example, in this case, the overarching theme involved chaos, the Tau.
Yeah, this was just your war zone too. Each war zone had their own.
There were 4 war zones?
Yeah, there are 4 war zones. This talks a little bit to one of the other challenges I think that that we are trying to do something a little bit differently.
Actually, before we even go to that, let's back up a minute.
Sure.
How many tickets would you sell for this event? Because there was a limit.
Yeah.
You capped it.
The 40K event was capped at 52.
52 people. Okay.
Yeah.
So and then broken up into 4 war zones.
Yeah, 4 war zones plus orcs. Orcs were kind of their own thing this year.
As were Eldar.
Yeah. Eldar were part of a war zone, but they had their own kind of.
Thank God it wasn't the war zone I was in. Last time it was nothing but Carl versus Eldar.
Carl versus Elves, yeah.
But and then I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but so then what was cool about the orcs I thought in this thing was Bryce and who else?
And Juliet
and
John, yeah.
And John had built this big orc war cruiser out of foam and like built a frame for it. Juliet built a frame interior for this thing. It looked awesome.
Yeah,
it looked awesome.
It's 7 feet long, Carl.
Yeah.
It's a 7-foot orc boat called the Bismarck.
Yeah.
And it was basically
So
like
good.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. aircraft carrier, but orky.
Right.
And the orc plot this year was this orc war boss could, he'd had this dream and he'd envisaged this boat. and he built it so it could teleport around the galaxy. And he went around stealing all of this tech from all of these alien races and bolting it onto his boat. And we wrote rules for all of it too. So
good.
every time he stole a Necron crystal or a Tau railgun, you could bolt it on your boat and you could use it in games.
Right.
And so we had the physical boat, and then we played some kill team games on the boat, and then there was kind of a capstone mission at the
battle
end.
at the end, yeah.
Yeah, that happened.
But it was huge. It was cool. It could be moved around a little bit.
I don't know where Bryce is going to put that.
Yeah, he said, "Oh, do you want it?" I said, "Nope, nope. I do not want to store that thing."
Yeah, he was super excited.
Brilliant.
About it.
But I just loved that, because the other problem I find with narratives, and in particular large events like this, is weaving a cognitive, is that the word? Coherent story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Through 22 different factions, that
Right.
isn't just goofy. And by breaking things into war zones, you really subvert some of that, but also then throwing the orcs in there as they're this random element that are kind of moving between the war zones.
Sure.
Was brilliant.
Yeah, I think I've heard this referred to as the dawn of war problem. Why is every faction in the galaxy on this one planet at the same time, all fighting over the same thing? And it's a problem that I feel like a lot of narrative events just kind of gloss over.
They hand wave away.
They hand wave, or they lump every faction in the game into these sort of super factions. Usually there's like
Imperium, Chaos, and Xenos.
And interlopers or... and sometimes the Xenos factions will get broken into two. There will be a good guy Xenos faction and a bad guy Xenos faction.
It feels reductive, though, and it feels like, I don't get my moment.
Sure, yeah. So what we decided to do is just not do that. The events at Maelstrom Mixer take place on 4 different planets, and they are very far apart from each other. They're all in the same sector, but a sector's huge.
It's massive. Yeah.
And these planets are in different systems all over the sector. And so each war zone is like a specific conflict between 2 factions. Maybe Drukhari or Eldari are raiding an Imperial agro-world. Or maybe Chaos is attacking, or so maybe Imperium is trying to retake a world that had been that had fallen to chaos.
Yeah.
And those in particular are 2 of the plots of the 2 of the war zones from this year. But then what we also try to do is come up with some kind of clever reason or some clever story that ties all 4 of these 4 planets together. And so this year, what we came up with was there's an Eldar Farseer who has foreseen the death of his craft world. And what he realized after a lot of viewing the skeins of fate, he did the Doctor Strange thing of previewing all 3,246,000 potential futures. He realized there's one way to save his craft world, and it involves very specific things happening on these very different planets all throughout the sector.
Yeah.
And so the Eldari are here to make sure that these very specific combinations of events happen. And so the success to them happens by helping or hindering events in other war zones.
Which is very thematic for them.
Yeah, they're meddling. They're meddling in everyone's business.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the way we sort of tie what is essentially 4 disparate events together into one and tell a cohesive story around it.
Yeah, I thought that was really clever. And then what you've also done is kind of every major faction has kind of a spokesperson for it, who is kind of, how do I put it? Like narratively leading your group, meaning like they will say between the first day and second day, they kind of got up and said they each gave their kind of overview of what has transpired so far, and from our perspective and what we need to accomplish. And it wasn't so much they were handing you orders, it was just kind of giving you like a sense of, you guys did pretty good yesterday, or oh, you didn't do so good yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think some narrative events, we talk about different kinds of narrative events. For some narrative events, it's just a slider. You're trying to accumulate points of some kind.
Sure.
Loot points, or
there's always some metric.
So there's some kind of metric, and every game you win, you move the slider a little bit depending on how much you won the game.
Right.
I I think that's an interesting mechanic, and gamers respond well to it. We understand intuitively the idea of accumulating points in our games, and those points go into a pool. And once we hit a certain threshold, we've won the game.
Right.
But the incentive structure is, I think, bad. You're incentivizing your players to win the game as hard as you can.
Right.
Which is not what we want to do at a narrative event. And yeah, like,
well, I mean, you still want to win.
Sure.
Like I wanted to win every game I was in.
I said that improperly.
But but I know what you're saying. What you're saying is and we'll get to the missions because the missions really fed into this.
Yeah,
I think.
because I think winning is a narrative. Like wanting to win.
Oh, for sure.
Your general on the battlefield, like in the 41st millennium, wants to win their battle. That's like
losing typically is not
involves.
Why am I here? I want to lose.
Want to lose? Yeah. No, but I think playing at a win at all costs kind of situation is what we want to try.
Right.
Yeah.
So just to reiterate, we've got 4 different zones where there are conflicts happening between different factions.
Yeah.
You are assigned one of these zones. I think Chaos was in 2 different zones.
They were. Yeah. Imperium was in most,
which is easy.
3 different zones.
Yeah. Because I mean, there's so many factions that fall under the Imperium header. And then, in addition to that, I spoke about, we have kind of our group spokesman for each zone.
Warzone lead. Yeah.
Warzone lead.
Yeah.
In my case, and I think every other faction had some other similar situation, for our Chaos group, for every character you killed, you gained an ascension point, which were glass beads that you would go and drop in your little bowl with your name next to it. So you were, and by the end of the event, whatever Chaos leader had accumulated the most ascension points would get, some benefit, either ascend or what have you.
Yeah.
And it led to some very interesting cases where, man, I thought I was going to win it. Like I thought, I've gained so many points at a certain point, but there was one guy that was just way ahead of me. But what was really interesting about this was
it was the Alpha Legion guy.
The Alpha Legion guy did really good. I can't remember his name. He was really nice. Sean. Yeah. But what was really interesting is if I started getting just brutalized in a game and I'm like, oh man, I am not going to win this game. My next thing was, where are the characters?
Yeah, let me just go assassinate as many characters as I can.
These obliterators, deep strike right here. And is that your character? That's too bad. Or my demon prince just goes hard at this guy. I'm like, I don't care if I get table wiped at this point. I'm just going to get some ascension points.
Carl, I'm super glad you brought that up. This is something that we tried for the first time this year, and we got a number of really positive points of feedback on it. Basically, you give your players a mission, a goal to accomplish, but then over the course of the event, you give them a bar to fill up. In this case, yours was ascension points. And this is not the whole event. The filling up the bar is not what the event's about. It's sort of a side quest.
Yeah.
And so it
was clever.
But by doing that, if you get handed a mission and things just go really badly for you, you've now got a thing that you can pivot to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had not sort of thought about it in that way when we were planning
coming up
mechanic.
with it. Yeah.
But I think it touched on something.
I loved it.
I think it's a really cool idea.
Absolutely loved it. I loved it a bunch. And I know that other groups had similar bars they were filling up, if you will. Yep. But boy, was
Orcs were trying to crump the most.
That's right.
The Tyranids were trying to accumulate biomass.
And in fact, so this kind of pivots to the missions themselves. And I'll say I think it was my second or third mission was, hey, I think it was the third mission. It was the players with the least amount of ascension points at this point had to team up. I played a lot of team games, which was really fun too.
Yeah.
I only got one solo game in, but I got all the team games in, which was great. Like I got to meet people and like we had fun.
The 2v2s are also really popular.
Yeah, it was super fun.
It's a cool mechanic.
It does take a little bit longer. Like you got to be ready to, but the people I was grouped with, like we understood that going into it. And so we hauled ass.
Yeah. You hustle a little bit.
Yeah. But the second or third game I played, we were trying to, we'd gotten handed all the missions.
Yep.
Okay, here's the missions for this round. And we're looking at them, and then we were like, oh, we'll do this one. And then somebody noticed, oh, wait, the players with the lowest ascension points have to take this one.
Right.
And we're like, oh, okay, well, that's you and me. So we join and we go, or not you and me, but the other player and myself, and we go off. And then we realize, oh, wait a minute. If we kill a Psyker or a Tau Ethereal, like we're getting double
bonus.
We're getting double ascension points here.
This was our comeback mechanic.
Oh, dude. I rocked the points in that mission.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah. I killed like two Eldar Psychers and an Ethereal. Like I gained so many points in that mission.
And in Graham's mission, he was doing a similar thing with ascension points. He tweaked it slightly, but he also had certain missions that required or that keyed off of players with either the most or the least ascension points.
Right. Very clever.
And
very clever.
It's a way to say, hey, so
hey, maybe you had a bad run of luck.
Yeah, you're not out of it yet.
Yeah.
This mission's going to catch you up. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Similarly, if you've got the most ascension points, this mission might be really hard. And so like if we know that
that's
this
a good
mission's
point.
kind of
because they weren't always
they're not always fair.
what's the word I'm looking for? They're not they're not symmetric. There's some that are asymmetric. Like I'd be like, how the heck are we supposed to get all of these things?
Yeah.
Like this is crazy, you know?
And wars like that. Like you don't always go in and have like everything perfectly evenly matched and stuff. And so
as Donald Rumsfeld famously said, you go to war with the army you have, not the one you wish you had.
That's right. So if there's a mission that's intentionally and specifically meant to be hard for the chaos player, for example, there might be a blurb of text at the top that says, hey, this is meant to be played by the player with the most ascension points.
That makes sense.
As a way of getting at, hey, like if you're
kind of throttles them a little bit for this go.
Yeah, if you're good at the game, if you're like really good, you need to take this hard mission. Yeah.
That's clever. And so that is just like you said, kind of the side quest situation. Let's talk about the missions themselves, because we just talked about them being a little asymmetric in some cases, but a lot of times you would rock up with your mission and your opponents rock up with essentially the same mission, but they have, in a lot of cases, different objectives than you do in that mission.
Yeah, this is something else that we're experimenting really hard with and have been for the last couple of years, is the idea of asymmetric mission briefings. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning of each round in your war zone, this year, Carl, it was Chaos versus Tau and Votan.
Votan, yeah.
Votan. And so the two sides are each given a top secret dossier. It's a manila folder with top secret stamped on the outside.
Yep.
And if there's 6 players in a war zone, each dossier will contain 6 mission documents.
You know what you need to do?
You open it up and sorry, what's that?
For the folder for the Aldari or the other, you guys got to stamp them, because a lot of times they have the language, the alphabet thing.
Yeah, with the different languages. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's stupid. But anyway, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I bought it the first year we did this in 23. I bought a top secret stamp, and it was so much fun. Stamping the middle of folders. I still got it. Yeah. But
we just did all our communication via Signal.
Oh, okay. Perfect. You didn't even use the.
We did. Never mind, I'm making jokes. All right. Anyway, so okay, you get your mission. I'm sorry to interrupt. You get your mission,
but it might be different than the mission that your opponent got, and so you have slightly different. We played with asymmetric points values in some cases.
Yeah. There was a mission I played in where I had 1,100 points. It was team mission, so we had 2,200 points on the board, and the opponents had 1,000 each. So they had 2,000.
Yep.
And it was funny because they were like, the opponents and we did not realize it. We just thought, oh, you have 2,200 also. And then like later after the mission, we're like, oh, we had 2,200 points. They're like, oh man, we only had 2,000.
Yeah. So this is, we tried to turn a lot of different knobs to it. Part of it is to shake people out of their competitive mindset.
Yeah.
So it's not a 2,000 point game. A lot of our 1v1s are 1,500. But then we do other things like, make asymmetric points values. Deployment is totally different. We do a lot of like player 1 deploys their whole army.
Yeah.
Player 2 then deploys their whole army, and then player 1 gets first turn.
Right.
So you
would dictate that versus rolling. Yeah.
There's
And then some you did roll.
And then some, yeah. So there's we played around with a bunch of different ways of doing it. But yeah, sometimes there were secret mission objectives. Like you would go into the game knowing how you were going to get points, but you had no idea how your opponent was going to get points.
Yeah.
And
that was kind of part of the fun. I thought like trying to figure out what is it they're trying to do.
Yeah, what are they trying to do?
Like in one case, we were like, oh, clearly they're trying to stop us from doing this. Like that's clear. But then there was a mission where I was like, what are they doing? Like we're just going, I don't understand what they're doing. They must have something in mind. And it was funny because you'd be like, I hope they're playing the right mission.
Yeah.
You know?
So one of the missions in your war zone was to show you're like the mission briefing would say something to the effect of, hey, sensor readings show that there's some alien force making its way into this region.
Yeah.
We don't know what they're up to, but go there, figure out what they're up to, and put a stop to it.
Right.
And functionally what that means is you get points for killing enemy units.
Right.
You get extra points if you kill enemy units while they're attempting to do an action. Mm-hmm. So whatever the bad stuff is they're trying to do, if you stop them while they're trying to do it, you get even more points. And then you get even more points than that if I think there was like a table quarters mechanic or something.
Right.
So if you sort of spread out, recon the area, kill enemy units, and specifically if you kill them while they're attempting to do actions, that's how you score your points. And they score points by doing actions in table quarters or something. So the objectives are structured so that you will find yourself in conflict with your opponent's forces, but you're not explicitly trying to do the opposite of what the other person's doing.
Right.
And it's very possible your thresholds for success might be different. And so it's very possible that both of you could succeed in your mission.
And that is the last point I wanted to make about the last point I wanted to make about the missions was I never felt like you could get like, you could have a failure. You could have an absolute failure. Like, oh, you lose every objective on the table and you've now had a failure. But in a lot of cases it was, well, if, opponents A get 5 of these things, they have a major success. Mm-hmm. You know, if they get 4, it's a success. If they get 3, it's a minor success. 2 is minor success. 1, a failure.
1's a failure. Yeah.
And then conversely, on your side, it would almost be the reverse of that. Or it may be your objectives, again, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 kind of thing. So even where there were moments where I only had like a couple units left on the table, I was like, we still eked out like a success.
Yeah.
And it was, it was very rewarding. It didn't feel like, there were times in my orc game against Jim, the whole point were these teleporting homers that he had to destroy with his orcs, and I wanted to prevent him from destroying them. He didn't realize I could repair them.
Oh, right.
Because that was like on my secret things. So I didn't mention that. And then what happened was he was just like steamrolling me. He almost was like, oh, I was feeling bad. And I'm like, well, these guys deep strike back here because you've moved your whole army forward. They repaired these 2 in the back. He's like, what, you could do that? I'm like, it says right here on my secret vision. He's like, oh man.
Yeah.
And so then he was able to get me off of one of those, but I still eked out like a minor success, which for me felt like a major success because it was like, I wiped out almost everything on the table. Like if I had one more round, I could have recovered at least one more objective. But the problem was he destroyed most of my guys that could fix objectives at that point. But it was still like Jim and I had such a fun game. And I think part of that is that mechanic of it's very hard. I would almost say it's very hard for you to have a complete failure.
Yeah, sure.
Like you can eke out a minor success with a little bit of concentration.
Sure, yeah. And I think that's where the event staff who are writing the missions and their experience comes into play of sitting down and figure out, okay, what do we expect a player who is pretty good at the game to be able to do in a mission? How many points do we think that they can get? And similarly, if you're new at the game, where do we kind of want to set the thresholds for minor success? Right. And then if you're if your opponent really messes up and lets you just have the board,
Yeah.
where do we want to set the threshold for major success?
I have to tell you, like, and I've said this to you off air, but for me, this event, the missions were the star player.
Oh, that's great.
Normally when we play games, whether it's Josh and myself or we have game days here, it's usually, hey, we whip out the cards, but we've got the terrain or whatever. I'm working on something with my buddy Travis down in Southern California where we're playing like a 3-arc narrative. He's been making Space Wolves. I'm going to play my Thousand Suns.
Sure, yeah.
Traditional thing. And that's less, there's cards and this, it's more aligned with, this ruin is literally an objective and this gate is an objective and that kind of thing. But for me, this was just a great 40K experience. I had 4 fantastic games. Some were more fun than others, but all of them were fun. Literally all of them were fun.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
And that's why the folks on the planning team do this.
And last year,
we love to see
when
those
I
smiles
came,
on people's faces.
I would say I didn't have as much fun.
Okay.
It was fun, but I didn't walk away from the games going, wow, did I feel invested in what I was doing? And that goes to both the ascension points. It goes to the design of the missions themselves and the balance to them, because they did feel balanced, quote unquote. And the reason I use the quotes on that is because when they were intended to not feel balanced, they weren't, but you could still win. I was able to achieve things I didn't think I was able to achieve. And then sometimes I got routed where I didn't think I would get routed. And it was just, the players all came with the right mindset. We all had fun. I got to meet a great bunch of people. It was fun, man.
That's awesome.
We haven't even touched on, you also had kill team games going at the same time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. This is the first time we've tried integrating a different game. Actually, I misspoke. The year we did this in 23, we had a Warzone that took place in the 31st millennium. Mm-hmm. So we had
interesting.
Yeah,
so 10,000 years before
we had 10,000 years before, and this was a Necron, and similar kind of overarching plot where there's one sort of puppet master character who is trying to make sure certain events happened a certain way to end up with a different outcome, but it was a Necron overlord. And 10,000 years in the past, he had sort of kicked things off with this particular idea, so that civilization would develop in this certain way, and then he would be able to.
Dude, I love that idea. I once ran a Dungeons and Dragons game, and people who are familiar with the Forgotten Realms may know what the hell I'm talking about. The rest of you just bear with me a second. But I once ran a Dungeons and Dragons game where there are these ruins. Are you familiar with Forgotten Realms? Or any of that? So the ruins of Mythdraenor. Right?
No. Okay. It's been a while.
Ruins of Mythdraenor, this famous, they were like the height of human and elven and dwarven civilization. And it's now this big forest. It's overgrown with ruins and demons in it and all this stuff. And I ran this game where the characters, I provided them pre-created characters, but they also had their characters, and we would jump back and forth in time.
Oh, yeah.
So they'd go back to the previous ones who were there during the fall of Mythdraenor. Yeah. And then now they were exploring it. So I love that kind of concept. That's very, very cool.
Yeah. So this year we did Kill Team. So the Kill Team wasn't its own war zone. There were Kill Team games happening in
each of the war zones.
Yeah. That was the original plan. We didn't actually have enough Kill Team signups to do that.
How many did you get Kill Team signups?
We had 8 people.
That's not bad.
And all of the Kill Team games happened in the Dolmir war zone that you were part of.
Okay.
So you got to see that. But
that's why that Alpha Legion guy got ahead of me.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. We had a bunch of Kill Team games that took place in this Chaos versus Tau and Votan conflict. Yeah. And the guy Sheldon who wrote all the Kill Team games and sort of ran that side of the event, he had a bunch of amazing terrain. He's a very talented graphic designer, and so he did a bunch of similar sort of fun narrative-y thing. He had rolled up missives that he gave to each faction each round, and he had gotten a wax seal that he stamped them with and stuff.
That's super cool.
He had some cool terrain that he borrowed for the event. And so in a similar fashion, each game like had a bespoke mission written for it that tied in with the main 40K storyline. The terrain and models there were NPCs as part of the missions that you had to rescue or you had to escort or you had to assassinate or something. We even had Kill Team games happening simultaneously on the same boards.
I saw that.
The 40K games.
And then it was something like if the 40K game ended, like the Kill Team game ended at the same time, or
and we experimented a little bit with interaction between
difficult,
the two games, but it's because they happen at different pacing.
Yeah, the timing of rounds is so tricky. Different.
Yeah. But I think we got some feedback on that. We have some good ideas on how we can do that better next year.
So there were some huge plans for Aeronautica Imperialis on a big scale.
Yeah,
you printed out like huge maps. I'll show pictures of them that have hexes on them and everything.
Yeah.
Vinyl mats.
Yeah, we did that Friday night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you ended up not needing my Thunderhawk. I'd been talking about getting it ready. And then you gave me like notice like a week ahead. You're like, hey, we don't need a Thunderhawk. I'm like, I'm done. Like I was rushing to get some things done. I'm like, I'm not going to rush. I got some ideas for this thing. So I at least got me a little ways along the way. But so how did that go? How did the giant Aeronautica Imperialis game go?
So we had designs on tying in some kind of narrative storyline from the Aeronautica game to the main 40K narrative. That ended up not panning out.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, we've been kicking around this idea as a club for a while now of wanting to build our own set of materials to be able to play Aeronautica Imperialis using 40K scale aircraft.
Now, let me just say, like you guys went all out. Not only did you have these huge mats, but you made stands.
Right.
And the stands all have the turning dials on them, but they're huge. I mean, they're, what are they?
10
like
inches.
10 inches across.
10 inches across flats on the hex.
Yeah. With dials built into them.
Yeah,
like
built-in dials.
When I went over and looked at the work you were doing, I was like, oh my God. Like, it helps that we have a bunch of engineers around.
It's true, yeah.
That know how to do this.
I got there's a guy, I think in Eastern Europe, who runs a website where he's a graphic designer. He just does playmat art.
Okay.
And he'll sell you for $10 a high-res download that you can get printed any way you want. On a neoprene mat, on a vinyl banner, on cloth, and then you've got a playmat. And so I emailed him and said, hey, I want to print a 12-foot by 12-foot mat. I like this style of artwork that you've got here. Mm-hmm. Can you blow this up to 150, 12-foot by 12-foot, 150 DPI, so I can get it printed on a vinyl banner? And I actually broke it up into two banners.
For people who don't know, DPI, dots per inch. You have different. If you're going to do something in print, like in a magazine versus on the web, you're going to have you want different clarity on those things. So anything that you're going to print out a picture of, you want as high a number as possible on those. Yeah. And so if you were to just take some JPEG image you found and scale it up to this, it's not going to work.
It would be blurry.
Yeah, it would be terrible.
Pixelated. So he did. He charged us, I don't know, $62 or something.
Bargain.
Very reasonable. And then we got it printed on two 6-foot by 12-foot mats and laid them next to each other.
Yeah.
That's partially because there's limitations on they can seam them together. They can print out two and then seam it together. But storing a 12-foot wide or 12-foot long roll up tube is a little bit challenging. So we did it on two 6-foot mats so that we could store it a little bit more easily.
It doesn't have any effect. Like they line up. They line up perfectly.
And we did this sort of naval archipelago. There's some land, there's some water. Yeah. And it was super fun. We only played 1 or 2 games on Friday night, but
probably took a while.
It took a while. We were setting up for other things. And so there's lots going on.
You might have, your eyes were bigger than your stomach.
I know. Yeah. It's like that every year.
Sure. But you figure out what works, what didn't work. And then you say, okay, if we were going to do this next time, we're clearly going to need somebody dedicated to just doing that and, blah, blah, blah. And I get it. I get it.
And then we did some clouds with polyester batting.
Yeah. Nice.
And now we've got the materials. So if we want to do it ever again, it's just a matter of pulling everything out, setting it up.
That's awesome.
It was neat. And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to lean into more with this event is it gives us an excuse to do all of the like crazy, wild, over the top projects that you would never do on your own.
Orc ships.
Giant orc boats. Yeah. But if you're running an event, like it's a great reason to do that
like
thing.
That. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So the interesting thing was that came up when I was talking with you guys during the event was some of the team games. He said, well, we went to team games because 1, people enjoy them, but 2, also we have a limited amount of terrain that helps a little bit when we're trying to, now let's be clear, like these were not team games on standard size boards. Like,
No.
And I love that. I freaking hate standard size boards. Like I love that it was like sometimes very unique sized boards.
Yeah.
But again, if you guys need more terrain for an event, I have tons of terrain here. I can
Amazing.
loan, so
thanks, Carl.
Yeah. Because I am going to go next year. Like without a doubt, this really solidified my interest in going again. And it was funny because after last year, like I said, I enjoyed myself last year, but I was like, this year I was kind of like, I think Bryce was saying, you better get a ticket because they're going to sell out. And they do sell out.
This was our first year selling out. We, in past years, had set a ticket cap, but it was symbolic.
Soft ticket cap. We'll take whatever comes.
And this year we set a ticket cap, and I was pretty sure we were going to sell out, and we did.
Yeah.
And I think
you had 3 people not show.
We had a wait list.
Oh,
we
nice.
burned through the wait list, and there were still 2 people that didn't make it.
Okay.
But that's great. I'm super happy with
No,
that.
that's super awesome. I was going to make a point, but I lost it. But Bryce was saying, you better get a ticket because it's going to sell out. And I was really weighing, well, what else do I have going on at that time? Do I want to do something else? Blah, blah, blah. Do I want to go to this event? And then finally I was like, okay, I'm just going to buy a ticket. And I bought the ticket. And I was like, Josh, you talked about wanting to go. You should get a ticket. And then I think he didn't, but then he got like a contract. So he had to fly out to New York.
He had something else going on. Yeah.
So he missed out. Because next year, like literally as soon as you guys open the tickets, I'm buying a ticket.
Yeah. So Carl, and for anyone listening, if this sounds fun to you, if this sounds interesting, we usually open up ticket sales right around the first of the year.
Okay.
And we haven't had our debrief as a team yet.
Sure.
But my suggestion to the team for next year, and again, this isn't finalized, but my suggestion to the team for next year is going to be that we actually make the event smaller.
Tighten it up.
I think there's a lot. This event does not scale well in the same way that competitive events do. There's really no economies of scale. Twice the number of people means twice as much work.
It's actually, I would actually say, it's more than that. Yeah. Where I would say twice as many people for a tournament is twice as much work. I think for this type of event, you're talking like 3x, 2.5 to 3x the amount of work. Like there's a growing factor.
Sure, yeah.
When you're trying
just
to
extra complexity.
Well, also because you're trying to ensure, and this is something I've been thinking about for a while too, going back to our whole narrative versus tournament event. And notice I said I want to avoid using that term competitive because like it's all competitive.
Sure, yeah.
I'm across the table from you trying to win. Narrative versus tournament type events is that with a narrative event, I feel like you are trying to also ensure that every person that went to that event felt like they had their moment.
Yeah.
It's very much like when you're running a game, a role-playing game.
Yeah,
like
totally.
every player has to get their moment to shine.
Yeah.
And so that moment to shine in a tournament, that's all up to you,
Yeah.
Hey, you're now in the winning bracket and you get to play the winner, and I hope you have a good game, but I'm not going to be there to ensure you, like, I'm not going to come over and say, oh, you had a great moment. Here's a special card, and make you feel special about it. Like, whereas in this event, like there was so much focus on that. Like I think I had one rules question and I hit you up when Jim and I were playing, I just could have swore that you could have a character leave a unit. And I was trying to help him. I was like, I think you could have that guy split off. And then you're like, oh, you can't. I thought they could leave, but couldn't rejoin. And I'm probably mixing up rules from different editions.
Yeah.
But I think the difference there is more attention to the experience that
Yeah.
each person is having,
Absolutely.
and ensuring that I don't. It translates into having a good time, but it's more about like your moment in the sun.
Yeah.
Like you get your moment to shine.
Obviously, we can't guarantee that everyone's
No,
going to
of course not.
enjoy themselves or have a good time. And this kind of event is definitely not for everyone.
No. No.
But the goal that is the stated goal is that it is having a good time, not winning the thing.
Hats off to you and the rest of the organizers. Like honestly, I had one of the best times I've ever had.
That's
at an
amazing.
event.
I'm so happy.
And I'm not just saying that. Like I'm fairly critical about these kind of things because, like when I went up to the Washington one, I mean it was cool and all, but like it wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah.
I don't even know that this was what I was expecting. Like I kind of learned from the Washington
Sure.
event. Like don't go in with kind of expectations in that sense, but like you guys have done such good write-ups of like bring this and you want to have points because we didn't even mention once you get your assignment, you have about 30 minutes to build your list.
Yeah. Army list construction happens after you've selected your mission.
And the way, I mean, that's a fast turn to build a list. So you came kind of prepared with like a 1,500 point list, but understand that you may play a smaller game or you may play a slightly larger game, or you may want to shift some units just in case you have this is an assault thing. This would be better if I had these assault guys.
Yeah. Or maybe the mission incentivizes battle line and you're like, I'll
Yes.
sub in a few extra battle line units.
Yeah. So one of the nice things about points now, it drives Chelle nuts because Chelle's like, how come I don't get to use these last 15 points? Is I could quickly sub out stuff
Sure.
and sub stuff in. So I came with like a couple ideas. Like I was like, here's my core 1,500 point list. I never played. I played it once. I played it against Jem, that one game that I played one-on-one. The rest of them were all team games. Every other team game, I was like, well, I could just drop this and drop that.
Tweaking your list in between rounds. Yeah.
In fact, I'll drop these 4 things and I'll substitute in this thing. So I brought like a little bit of extra to play with. So I kind of had an idea of where I would be.
Yeah, I think that's part of the experience is we want people to again, there's all of these small ways we're trying to break people out of their competitive mindset and tournament mindset and say, hey, like you don't have to submit a list ahead of time. You're not locked in to the same list in between rounds. If the mission is to assassinate enemy characters, why don't you bring a bunch of snipers and dudes with precision? Because that's what you would do.
And you might want to bring fewer characters.
And and if your opponent knows that they're trying to assassinate your characters,
Right.
yeah. So there's
Loose lips, sink orc ships.
I think that's part of the. I don't know. We get caught up in like what's real or not, but in real war, you don't send a take all comers force to
No, you said that
accomplish
at the
a specific mission. Yeah, you tailor your unit selections,
Right.
Your specializations to the mission you're trying to accomplish.
Sure.
Yeah. So we hadn't even talked about that.
Yeah, it worked really well. At first I was a little skeptical of it because I was like, what a hassle. And then as I got more into it, I was like, oh yeah, I want to switch this up. Like, hang on.
I think practically what it works out is people are like, they've got a core of their list.
That's exactly right.
600-700 points. That's their favorite, their narrative warlord.
Yeah.
A few battle line units, a tank. And
I did drop, I think, my land raider from everything but one game.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
Which I'm like, I usually like my land raider.
Yeah. 1,000, 1,200 points. It's kind of rough.
That's hefty. Yeah.
It's kind of rough with a 300 point tank. Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, and then, I've talked to Chelle earlier about the games I played, but the final mission I got to play on involved your Tau Manta versus my Reaver Titan. And the way in which you organized that was very clever. And I talked to Chelle about this earlier, but it was just, the thing I found is anytime I've brought a Titan to an actual game, it's like the first thing that happens is everybody targets the Titan.
Yeah,
and then you take it off the table.
There's one of two things happen. Either your Titan dies immediately and you feel bad for having spent 2,200 points on this model that did nothing.
That's right.
Or they put a bunch of shooting into it, don't kill it, and then you're
rarely.
like, cool, you just spent your whole turn shooting at this thing, accomplished nothing.
Right.
And now I'm going to have like a whole turn of shooting you back. And it's probably a 4,000 point game if you're bringing a 2,200 point model.
That's right.
So yeah, you can remove a lot of, non-Titanic units with
they were intended for This is another gripe I have about 40K in general. Like
it's a tough unit to balance.
Lords
right?
of War, as they used to be called, like they used to be specific to Apocalypse games for a reason.
Right.
I loved the way they did it in Horus Heresy initially, which was a Lord of War can only take up 20% of your points.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because that would then automatically stick you into a larger point value before you brought one. I thought that was cool. I did like, we've only played, I think, 1 or 2 games of it, the new Apocalypse. That they've now canceled. But we did play it a couple times, and I did appreciate the lessons they learned from like Epic, where it would be like you would place the tokens, and then at least you got around to do something. Also sped the game up quite a bit, actually.
So last year, what we tried was we basically said, play a normal game. Each person brings 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 points, whatever it is, according to the mission that your mission document says. But then, by the way, you also get a Thunderhawk, and your opponent also gets a Taunar. And so you've got your normal game, plus each person gets this 800 point big thing. And that way you're not feeling like this 800 points is being eaten out of your 1,200 point allotment or whatever. This year we did something a little bit different. We wanted to use even bigger models, but sort of recognizing that having a Reaver Titan or a Manta on the opposite side of the table would just pick up, if you chose not to shoot the other Titan thing, you could just pick up 1,000 points of little dudes in a round of shooting, and it would be a big feels bad. So we kind of imagined that the Titans were basically terrain that were interactive. The Titans were also focused on each other. So they sort of narratively, they were too busy pounding each other into dust to worry about these little dudes around their ankles.
Right.
And so we represented that from a rules perspective by like the Titans were not models. You couldn't select them to shoot. They couldn't fight, etc. But they moved a little bit, and we just defined this zone on the map that was like the rectangle between their two bases as the quote unquote danger zone.
Right.
And if you ended your turn in the danger zone, you took some amount of mortal wounds.
I think it was like a D3+1 or something.
Because you caught some stray bullets.
Yep.
But
it was very cool.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, that mission in practice worked very well. Like there were times where I was like, we have to hold this objective. I got to go into that. I'm going to lose this unit in 2 rounds, but they got to go in there and hold that objective for a little bit. It was fun.
And that was kind of what we were hoping, is that you'd use the 6 inches of Titan movement to like create.
You moved the zone around a bit.
Right.
And you would try to drag. And what was interesting is it would happen in the command phase. So it would move, and then you had a chance to get out of it if you needed to, or go into it if you had to, or move it and then force your opponent to be in it for a round, but not drastically. I mean, like you said, you can only move it 6 inches. So, but 6 inches it swings that thing pretty good.
Right. It's a big, And then the other thing we did was, fundamentally the mission was 7 objectives on the table.
Yeah.
There were primary points for hold 2, hold 3, hold more, something like that. But then there was a secondary objective, which was if you do 10, the Titans both had defensive profiles. If you did 10 wounds in a round in a single turn to a Titan, you got 2 secondary points. Right. And so you could sort of help out your Titan by beating up on the enemy Titan. Right. And score points for that. And so and then the final thing was that each Titan had some kind of very minor aura that it projected that benefited its friendly units that were near it. So the Reaver has void shields. It projected a 6-up feel no pain aura. The Tau Manta had marker lights.
You had to be like wholly within 6 inches of the Titan, though. I think
it was 12.
Maybe it was 12.
Wholly within 12.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It didn't last long.
It was a minor buff.
Again, it was one of those, look, we're giving you something, but it's not really much of anything. Although our opponents were like, well, that's a lot better than ours. And we're like, you're kicking our butts.
The Tau Manta could be an observer. So the army rule. The army rule is marker lights. It had 2 marker lights. It could spread it.
It was fun, dude. It really capped off the whole weekend. I'm glad I spent the time mounting the Titan to a base.
Yeah. No, I messaged you a couple weeks beforehand.
I was super nervous about it. I was
like, hey, I know we talked about this hypothetically being a thing, but I think I want to commit to it. I've got a cool idea. Can you?
It drew a lot of attention.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people came over and looked at it. They looked at the Manta. People don't see Mantas very often. And I sent pictures to Caleb who painted it. Like I sent pictures of people looking at it and taking pictures of it to Caleb to say, look, people are really, they really are appreciating the work you did. So
it's amazing.
It's amazing. I got it there and back in one piece. This makes me so nervous. It's honestly probably the favorite thing I own.
Yeah.
Like that's
awesome.
Yeah.
And I feel like these big, we all do this thing where you spend so much time and energy and effort painting these big centerpiece models that you get to use maybe once a year.
Yeah.
And so I love the idea of giving a reason for you to put these things on the table, even if they're just interactive terrain.
It was a very clever way of representing them, dude. Like
because otherwise you need to play a 10,000 point game for it to make sense.
Yeah.
Which
is again,
is
I
fun.
think, but I also think that's why Apocalypse is basically discontinued.
Yeah.
Like not. I think we are the abnormal 40K players.
Yep.
Like not many people have this ridiculous amount of stuff or this kind of room to play in. You know, so it is very rare that people get that opportunity.
Yeah. And certainly not at a weekend event. Like if we were to play a 10,000 point Apocalypse game, that'd be literally all you did at the weekend event.
Yeah, for sure.
I love the idea of coming up with clever ways to get these cool centerpiece models that you own on the table, show them off, have fun moving them around a little bit.
Yeah.
But not having the game feel, oh, you kill my Titan on the first turn, I guess I'm done.
Well, I'm done.
Because that happens.
That's exactly what happened the first time I put a Warlord Titan on the table.
Yeah.
Everybody on the table shot at it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool.
And if you go to the Grand Narrative, like the 1 year I went to the Grand Narrative, the guy played in a 2v2 game. He brought 1,000 points. He had a Warhound.
Yeah.
That was his whole army, 1,000 points Warhound. And
that Warhound probably didn't survive.
It was the final game of the event, and everyone had had 5 or 6 rounds of Crusade upgrades on all their units. And I was like, oh, I'm going to shoot a bunch of Strength 13 broadside railguns at your...
First, I'm going to bring down its void shields, and then I'm just going to destroy it. Yeah.
And he got to shoot it once or twice, but he was a good sport about it.
Yeah.
But you could tell that he was like doing this for his opponents.
You can't put you can't put all your eggs in one basket like that and expect. And again,
he didn't expect it to be good.
Much like at the 1100 point level, why I didn't use a Land Raider. I'm just like, well, okay, let's do this. Let's take a short break. We'll come back and we'll close out the show. We'll give you a few last minute thoughts there, and then we'll close out the show.
Sounds good.
All right, we're back. Brett, I mean, I've said it a number of times during this event, during this recording, but this was truly like you guys knocked it out of the park.
I think thanks so much. I super appreciate the compliment.
It was so fun.
We're making the 40K narrative event that we would want to play in.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see that other people are enjoying it.
Yeah. It was fantastic. And everybody I talked to, like the opponents I played, and I played some people multiple times because we did team games, and I was like happy to see, I think it was RJ.
Yeah.
Was one of the guys, like I played him twice, like in team games. And he's so funny, every time he was there, and he was like, oh, I know people find me annoying. I'm like, dude, you are cracking me up. Like, you'd go, okay, so this is AP -2. And you're like, what's AP?
Yeah. His whole army is Kroot and it's a 5-up. He doesn't care about armor.
But everybody I talked to was like, this was a fantastic event. We'll put obviously the website in the show notes so that people can go see it. You said it kind of opens around
start of the year. Yeah. January.
The thing I would say is, they had people from across the country coming to play, and I think it's going to even gain in more popularity. So I know you said, oh, we should shrink it down, but you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do.
It's exciting to see. Yeah. I think, we'll figure it out as a planning team because the event also, in order to have sort of critical mass with team size.
Yeah.
Like the teams this year were 6 people on a side. That feels like the right
it was good
number. So much smaller than that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
2 games a day was perfect. Like that's my perfect.
And you get the opportunity to kind of build rivalries with the folks on the opposite side as well.
Yeah.
Which is fun. Like
Yeah,
you said,
yeah, for
RJ,
sure.
Like you said with RJ, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm in a stupid crew. Dude, and the problem with our game where I talked about this earlier, but the problem with our game with the Titans was like they had the perfect mix. Like they had hard hitting Tau rail guns and stuff on the vehicles, and then they had
all the
a
chaff.
bajillion crew. And I was just like, oh no.
We took 4 mortar wounds.
But again, then I was like, who's the character?
Yeah.
You know?
Give me your characters.
I'm gonna eat
coming
them.
for you. And RJ has like 7 characters in his 12.
And I ate a bunch of them. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming down and chatting.
Of course, Carl. Thanks for having me.
I super appreciate it.
I love talking about this stuff.
I loved the event. It was fantastic. And my hat's off to everybody involved in the work they did. It's super appreciated. And I'll see you at the club, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Der Club.
Der Club. I just want to thank the other event organizers.
Yeah.
So the other war zones were ran by Juliet and John P. and John K. and Graham.
Yeah.
Graham K. And then we had Sheldon helping out with the Kill Team side. He did a bunch of graphic design for us as well. And Bryce helped out a bunch building the Warcraft carrier.
Painted a bunch of triangles.
Yep. It's honestly a huge production put on by really everyone in the club. We got a bunch of help.
The passion showed.
Yeah. We got a bunch of help this year from folks who weren't actually on the planning team, but who helped out in other sort of specific ways. Min and Steven and Jason all helped out kind of in their own ways with side projects, which was amazing. So it's a group effort, and no one person could put this on, do it themselves.
No, this is not of this quality. You know, it was amazing.
Yeah. So thanks again to all the
You know what's
folks who
interesting
made it
is
happen.
Juliet hasn't been in the club long, like maybe a year now.
That's right. Yeah.
And like really jumped in both feet. Like she's awesome.
Yeah. And she has a family and she has like a really busy job and
a giant orc claw she was.
And she, that was John's.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It looked cool.
Oh my God. The 3D printing out there is amazing these days.
It's incredible. Yeah, I know. As my printers are running Mordheim terrain.
Can you guys hear it in the background?
I don't know. I hope they can't. I hope it hasn't been irritating, but I'm not going to stop it. I got to run these things for like 2 weeks straight. So, So I'll put links in the show notes so that you can go see some of this stuff. I shared all my pictures on our Discord and in our Facebook group.
Amazing.
As you know, we have a Facebook group. We have a Discord that you can join. If you're listening to this on iTunes or whatever you're listening on, please leave us a review. If you have any questions, you can write Carl@theindependentcharacters.com or Josh@theindependentcharacters.com. There's no A in independent. I always say that because I've told people, but there was a listener at one point that registered the independent with an A.
Independent.com.
Oh, weird. And you would go to it and there was like a picture of a commissar to be like, you're at the wrong place. You want it. I thought that was so funny.
That's funny.
And we have a Patreon that you can join as well if you're looking for extra content. We release extra interviews and extra content there, and we're getting better about releasing more of that faster. Josh and I have ideas that we are still working on to produce there. If he could just get back from all the work he's doing in New York, it would be great. So you probably haven't come up with a leaving saying, but normally we say like, so this is Carl.
And I'm Brett.
And we're coming to you from the Astronomicon, where every game is a narrative game. And Brett has no idea what I'm doing. So, okay, we'll talk to you next time.
This episode of The Independent Characters is protected by the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find information on the front page at theindependentcharacters.com.